Welcome to June 28th, 2020, Anahat Meditation Teachings. The Anahat Teachings themselves is what they're officially called. And it is June 28th, 2020. We're on lesson number 5, continuing with meditation 6. So I took the time today, usually Sunday is my Anahat, as far as teaching, every day is like an Anahat day, but Sundays are the teaching day where I prepare for the class at night, which involves spending a lot of time in yoga, meditations, taking good care of me so I can be my best for you guys. And to put together whatever lessons need to get posted on the website from old archived stuff, usually from around 2005. And I was looking through that information today. So I have on the website, let's show you. We always do a little screen share. So I will invite you certainly, one sec, to ask questions, to share anything you'd like. And let's just take a moment with screen share, show you the updates. All right, so here's the website, and homepage is still the same on the Anahat Meditation tab. You scroll down, you'll see lesson 5 is there now. Inside lesson, well, we'll review it actually. So I'll talk about it once I show you, and then we'll have that recording posted today, this class posted here once we're done. Lesson 5, meditation number 6, not really part 2. In fact, I have some other material to share with you tonight because we pretty much already covered this. And then if you scroll down in the audio lessons, you have disc 1. It's no longer a disc, of course. That's about, I don't know, it's less than an hour discussion. So listen to it if you're serious about this training and especially certification. And then the meditation itself actually is only about 15 minutes, giving you about 3 minutes per meditation. These should probably take longer. We'll definitely spend more time with that today. In fact, I think I'd like to do, we have one question from you guys, is about it. I have a excuse me, an image to talk to you about that. But let's take a moment and close our eyes. It's a meditation class. It's an online monastery. And let's embrace the meditations up from 1 to 5 to 6. And come from that place where we're being it, where we're feeling it. So I invite you to sit in your chair wherever you're comfortable. Close your eyes. And let's drop awareness immediately down to the hara. Become aware of the descending energetics, the descending triangle. And as you breathe, let's start to descend. Now that you know a lot about the Anahat system, now I can just talk to you in those terms. And in yourself, you can just use simple trigger phrases to start to move into a certain meditation. Like you can just think hara, and all your attention goes there. Or descending. And as you breathe, inhalations, pull breath energy, consciousness, down to the hara. Exhalations, keep awareness there. Inhaling to the hara, and exhale at the hara. If you're sitting in an upright chair now, you'd feel your feet on the earth, on the floor. And there's a sense now of grounding coming down into your body. You're choosing to incarnate consciously, mindfully. You're not resisting human. You can't escape the human, not for very long, so this asks us to embrace that. And just descending means there's no past, because you're just here now. Right where your breathing is, right where your body is. The body's always present tense while it's still around, and your breathing is always present tense. And the question would be, are you present tense? So let's release the future. And I like to call it taking inventory. Just ask, how do you feel now? How's your body doing? How's your life doing? How's your heart doing? How's your mind? And just a brief meditation here. We'll pull energy up to the heart now. As you inhale, breathe up to the heart from the heart. Exhale at the heart and open. Inhale, hara to heart. Exhale, open your heart to love. If it helps to think of someone or something you love, that's okay. Yet eventually, you just go to your heart, and love is the energy that's there. And eventually, you start to let go of the hara just for now. You go to Anahat Chakra, the 6-pointed star, the 12-petaled lotus in the center of your chest, and you breathe there, letting your heart relax. And as your heart relaxes, your mind will relax. Breathing into the heart, knowing that you're safe. It's okay to feel whatever you feel, yet let everything that's not love, let it go. Flavors of love would be peace, joy, bliss, anything else pretty much. If it moves, just let it go. If it vibrates, let it go. You forgive and let everything go, holding nothing in the heart. Just open and pure and clear. And then inhaling up to the third eye region. Chin might go up a little, eyes go up, and the awareness goes to spirit, to source energy, to pure consciousness. Now we're letting the physical go, yet we're a bit aware, of course, of the body in the ascending triangle now. Inhale up the core central channel, inhale up the ascending triangle, and exhale, keep the awareness in and up in the crown. Inhale, energy goes up. Exhale, for now it stays up. Inhaling up into pure awareness. Exhale, keep the attention there. You might focus in your third eye, the space in the back of your forehead, or between your ears, in and up. Yet really the object of consciousness is consciousness itself. What you meditate on here is pure awareness. That's pure peace. It is pure bliss. In its essence, it is pure love. And it's you. As you ascend, focus on you, your own awareness. And where do you begin? And where does universal awareness begin or end? Noticing it doesn't really begin or end, it just is. There's no limitation, no boundary. Your pure potential. You can manifest anything from who you are, anything harmonious anyway. And now you're just being pure, conscious bliss. We hold the concentrated power here, the Sanyam power. Juriki. Remember Dharana, concentration. Dhyan, meditation. And Samadhi, oneness. Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi is Sanyam. The combination of those three, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi, Sanyam, held in the space of higher consciousness as you're ascending. And as much as you might not want to come out of that, we'll go to meditation for sexual energy. And you're really essentially staying in that space. You let your chin go down a little. Inhale down the descending triangle all the way to the region of the genitals. And just exhale there. And you're simply breathing at the base of your spine. The energetic here is pleasure. There's no other reason. There's procreation, of course, yet right now, the reason for this area of your being is just to let yourself feel good, just to sit here, breathe. And just to be with sexual energy, not to make such a big deal out of it. It's just any other chakra. And yet, when we descend all of the higher energy, we're bringing the purity, bliss, light, and love. So inhaling to the first chakra region. It's the hara, but below the hara. It's called the descending lower triangle. Kidneys through the ureters go down to the, eventually to the urethra, right? So kidneys go down through bladder for elimination, ovaries down to uterus. So feel whether it's a male or female body. There's a descending triangle that goes down to sexual energy. And you're breathing all of the conscious awareness from number 3 ascending, and all the love in the heart, self-love, and the focus of descending, focus down below the hara. Don't try to accomplish anything or do anything with it, just be with it. And then from the sexual energy, meditation 5, circulation, focus on the mostly the back core, the back central channel. We inhale up the back, pulling the sexual energy up. The head might go back a little on that inhalation. As you exhale, circulate that awareness in the brain and even into higher consciousness. Inhaling sexual energy up. The core central channel is in your awareness as well. Exhale, the crown, third eye region. Imagine circulating that energy in the exhale in the brain. Inhaling sexual energy. Unexcited sexual energy is pulled up. It does go through the heart, open shoulders, exhale the head. The real experience of this in fruition and purity is delicious. It's just bliss. It's just pure pleasure, pure love, pure spirit, and really nothing else. Yet it contains everything else. Body can just be what it is. The heart remains open to whatever you feel. Yet the movement of all this energy will eventually purify whatever's there. Now we inhale up to the crown, third eye region. Exhale, drop the energy down to the shoulders. Meditation 5, meditation 6, lesson 5, meditation 6, the 6-pointed star. Inhale from shoulders to hara, or down to the sexual energy. Exhale to the kidneys. The energy kind of splits, but stays in the middle as well, and between the kidneys. Inhale up. Third eye region. Exhale, shoulders and lung. Inhale, hara. Exhale, kidney. Inhale, crown. Third eye, spirit. Exhale, spirit down into the body, to the shoulders. Throat is open. Inhale, hara. Sexual energy. Exhale, up to the kidneys and adrenal glands. Get nourished. And between the kidneys is called the Ming Men. Inhale up. Crown. Exhale, shoulders. Soften your shoulders to allow spirit energy to descend in. Inhale, gather it at the hara. Exhale, kidneys. Now keep your attention focused primarily at your heart, anahat, and feel the energy circulate through and around with the 6-pointed star. So focus on the heart, but inhale to the crown, third eye. Exhale, throat, shoulders, lungs. Focus on the heart. Inhale to the third chakra, the belly. Hara, second chakra, first chakra. Exhale, kidneys and all the internal organs, those lower ones. Inhale, up, crown, third eye. Exhale, throat, shoulders. Focusing on heart. Inhale, hara. Exhale, kidney. It's just that level of your being. It's not only the words I say. Inhale, crown, third eye, everything up here, including your brain. Exhale, shoulders. Inhale, hara. Exhale, kidneys. Feel the energy. It's purifying with every breath. It grows exponentially stronger with every breath. It's being recirculated, but doesn't lose power on each cycle. It gets stronger on each cycle. And your heart is the center of this larger star. It's a star within a star. It's a fractal. You are a fractal. And then we return the energy back to the heart. Only the heart. Remember, you could end anywhere, at the head or the heart or the hara. Just for today, right now. Let's definitely bring awareness to the heart. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes if you like. And let's check in. All right, so feel free to use the chat pod, ask questions, let me know how you're doing, let me know what that experience is like. I'm very open to your feedback. For these classes, feedback is probably best given, which I get often, so thank you, through email. All the response has been really positive. People are having really profound spiritual experiences, and I'm honored to be sharing this with you. So today what we'll do is I'm going to answer a question that one of you asked, then which is relevant, of course, to this work, so we'll cover it. And then we will go into the workbook lessons. Then I don't think we're going to take that long because I've already taught this. So we will cover today stages of spiritual growth in relationship to the Anahat meditation system. So you can get some sense of where all this is going. Why would I do this? Is it just purifying my energy so I can be healthier? Just give me better complexion because I'm moving all this energy? Is it clearing emotional blocks? Is it opening all my chakras? Is it purifying my meridians? Well, the answer is yes to all that, which is why I'm passionate about teaching this. But no matter what, if it doesn't go to the deepest spiritual places, then you might just say it's just like doing body stretching yoga or Tai Chi or Qigong or even going for a good jog. Now, you get benefit from certain types of exercise or movement. You can get acupuncture sessions, you can get Reiki sessions. There's things you do to balance chiropractic, things you do to balance your whole system. The beauty of this is it does all of it while you're sitting in your own meditation cushion at home. Yet again, beyond all of the benefits that come from this, it's self-realization that really matters. And what people don't always realize is in that state of self-realization, knowing who you really are, you already are, but really become ever more powerful as a co-creator of your life. You start consciously co-creating your life based on what your insides are like. And it's not really into those teachings tonight, but again, I kind of want you to understand as we're going through looking at stages of spiritual growth, uh, just where the path really goes and why you want to stick with it if you're resonating with it. All right, Sabrina said, Lori said, very powerful. Oh, sorry, we're not using names in the recording. Not anymore. Somebody said, had a hard time staying in my body. My head kept bobbing, working hard to stay in my body. Yeah, it's okay, right? We have meditation 3. You can go up and out as long as you want. But when you find, and we'll look at this in the workbook today, when you find you're really dysfunctional and you just don't want to do anything, right? Or you just want to stay in meditation all day and you're leaving your body and that wigs you out. When you come back to your body, the body doesn't quite feel like you don't want to be in it and you're not really fully in it. When you come back after a lot of that, you'll be so grateful that we have descending and the ability to really integrate who we are into the body. So I get you. Somebody said, I felt really relaxed, and towards the end, I experienced a lot of heat in my body. Great. Yeah, so you'll notice different temperature changes, hot, cold. The idea is the system balances itself out. Yin and yang, ascending, descending, masculine, feminine, integrate. So thank you. All right, I'm going to read a question someone had. Again, we're not using names because these recordings hopefully will exist for a very long time. Someone said, do you have any understanding of why we choose a particular gender to come to life with, even though we are practicing both yin and yang principles of awareness? Yeah, so I was looking for, before we started, because your question came in before we started, for a picture of divine androgyny. I'll try to find, there's images, if you go to Google Images, they're largely from the alchemical tradition. I saw somebody wrote a book on it. I haven't read that. I don't know who that is. I just noticed it. But what I can say is there's a picture I was looking for. I couldn't find. I'll see if I can find it somewhere. But I'll show you a picture. It's real. Let's just start with that. Even though you said we're practicing both yin and yang principles of awareness, the truth is most people are not doing that yet. One sec. So this is one image. You can find this in Hinduism as well. I think it's a lot more beautiful in Hinduism, but these images come from the alchemical tradition, so it's more European actually. And what you see here is male, and this right side would be this person. If you want to consider this a person, this is their right side. And masculine is almost always right side. It's very, very consistent, Hinduism, alchemy. In the left side, feminine. I can't tell you what all the symbolism means because I'm not trained as an alchemist. They have deep initiations, and I'm not sure any modern person truly knows all the symbology behind this because, again, these teachings are European, probably 300, 400, 500 years old or so. And then here we would see something that resembles the tree of life. There's 6 on either side. But anyway, I'm not here to interpret the picture, although I have studied this stuff as much as I can. But again, not all the imagery is really understood by modern folk, I don't believe. Anyway, let me make my image bigger, if that helps. And so the question about gender, and you said choice. It's not always choice. And eventually, like I was just talking about, when you become very conscious, you realize you do have the choice. You can create and manifest what you want. In A Course in Miracles, the teaching is you are not your own creator. There is a beingness, a source, whatever you want to call that, that created you. And you're created in the image and likeness of that. That's the whole I am Adam or I'm a Dhamma idea, that you're a reflection of your source. And your source, beyond time and space, beyond yin and yang, when the one is still just one, that's genderless. There's no masculine, feminine. Yet when creation begins, when God says, let there be light, there's instantly yin and yang. There's light and dark. So the one becomes the two. And by manifesting light, you also have to have dark. Now, dark doesn't mean negative or evil or some of the Christian mythologies about Satan or anything like that. God doesn't need that God at all to be God. Yet masculine, feminine principles, not human bodies, but masculine, feminine principles that emanate out. Now, this is a much bigger discussion. What I'd recommend, if anybody's really interested, I gave a talk recently on past life regression therapy, and we looked at the transmigration model, which I'm just going to pull from here. And the idea is consciousness becomes the forms that it's manifesting into. Huge gas clouds emanate from Big Bang, right? The short story of all that. And the gas believes itself, the consciousness believes itself to be gas. And then stars form and elements form. And then consciousness believes itself to be, well, stars. And then minerals, rocks, elements. And that keeps evolving eventually into plants. And then you start seeing a bit more, right, of the masculine, feminine theme. By the time you're incarnating into animals, there's obviously masculine and feminine in most species, I believe. The idea, though, is that when consciousness identifies with its form, it starts to believe itself to be that form. So if you were, let's say, a male horse, you would keep feeling like you're a male horse. And you might do that for many lifetimes until you start getting new sanskars, is the term there, which we don't have time to cover tonight, or mental impressions. By the time you get to human, you could very well be in a default mode towards a certain gender, right? So let's say you're just feeling much more masculine. And you can play that out for many, many lifetimes according to the transmigration model. So it's not really choice. I know there's deeper teachings. We just don't have time. I know all the deeper, not all, but I know a lot of the deeper teachings, of course, about choice. But it's important to understand, is a dog really having a choice? The consciousness is just in default mode being dog. And if the body is male, then the consciousness would believe itself to be male dog, right? Then maybe male horse, eventually male person. When you go through enough, so I've looked at, and again, this isn't hardcore science, of course, but I've looked at about 14 of my past lives. 12 of them were men, but 2 of them were women. And one of the lifetimes as a woman was a choice, because when you're conscious enough, you got an intellectual mind, reasoning mind, you can interact with other higher beings. Right then, I remember that life saying, I want to know what motherly love is like, right? I want to experience what it's like to have the female experience. So that lifetime was dedicated to that, but it was a choice. Eventually, now we're looking at the image on the screen, you start realizing that you're all of it. You're not just one or the other. You are masculine and feminine. You are yin and yang, because you're returning back to your source. And all of you basically has to go with you. All in the Anahat system, all of you is included in the meditations, right? We embrace all the chakras like we just did. You're embracing sexual energy. We're working to purify and circulate sexual energy. And what you can see here, actually, this image, I can speak somewhat to what's going on. In the tree of life, you have the core central channel right here. And the core central channel is right up the spine. The snakes in the chalice, most likely, the chalice would be a feminine image, right? At least this descending part of it. And the snakes are going to represent central and then right and left. So we have these snake-like movements that go up the spine. So divine androgyny has really nothing to do with how you express yourself sexually. It doesn't mean you're gay or bisexual. It just says that your chakras are totally open. The Kundalini, and that's really what we're looking at here, awakened but controlled. Remember that word yam? To control the Kundalini energy. It goes up the spine. So I would say a lot of gender is just default. And then at some point you start making choices. So people are born certain ways and they say, look, I was born like this. But spiritually speaking, that soul had sanskars, simply stated, had karma that was aligned towards a certain way of being. We are not creating ourselves because God already created us, but we're recreating ourselves in the highest way we can conceive of in any moment. And that's really what it comes down to. We are recreating ourselves in the highest way we can conceive of in any moment. And once you get evolved, you're evolved enough, you're conscious enough, you realize there's virtue in masculine, there's virtue in feminine, there's virtue in ascending, there's virtue in descending, there's virtue meaning this. The Chinese word is day, Te. You can read a good book called The Day of Piglet. That goes along with the Tao of Pooh by Benjamin Hoff. And the idea there in day is that every aspect of creation has value, right? So when somebody is negating, like let's say a man is negating feminine energy, then he could be negating kindness and nurturing and receiving. Like a man who doesn't know how to receive pleasure is missing out big time, right? But receiving is a yin or feminine energy. So the whole story of gender evolution, we obviously don't have time for, but I think the thing that's relevant, why I'm willing to spend time in the question, is because it leads to where are we all going with this, right? Ascending is more of a masculine energy. If not really, but usually an ascending triangle is considered masculine. Descending is usually considered feminine, but remember, yin contains yang, yang contains yin. And you'll see that, I don't see it here in this picture, but a lot of alchemical literature, they're really acknowledge. Oh, here's a cool little thing about alchemy. You may have, if you watch Harry Potter, you heard the name Nicholas Flamel. He was actually a real historical figure in the field of alchemy. And the alchemists were working, as most people understand, to turn lead into gold. They were trying to turn base metals into more valuable metals. But that was all metaphor for a deeper experience of transforming the dross of the darkness of human psyche into the gold of spiritual illumination. And when the alchemists were working to bring about the Philosopher's Stone, they were working, so the Philosopher's Stone in alchemy is the six-pointed star. It's part of why I've researched this so much, because a lot of the alchemists understood the value, the benefit of the six-pointed star. And as does every religion and spiritual tradition, if you research enough. Like pretty much everyone has realized the virtue, the day, the benefit of the six-pointed star. So the alchemists, to form the Philosopher's Stone, were working to integrate ascending and descending. And when you look at a picture like this, they knew more than just being primitive scientists, if you will. They were the precursors of our modern day chemists. They were experimenting with substances, but they realized those substances, like sulfur and all the other stuff, mercury, that they were playing with, they would attribute to those substances deeper meanings. And they were still experimenting, of course, like we still do to this day. We've just made a lot of progress, but I think a lot of people, like obviously in science and chemistry, have forgotten about metaphor. They get so in their left brain, which is the rational, analytical, reasoning mind, which is masculine, that they forget about, they're not using their full brain when they forget about the right brain, which is intuitive, non-linear. It works in metaphors. It's more emotional. So you meet a lot of scientists who are on the quest for truth, and they're stuck in their left brain. And I like to say, why are you only using half of your brain? How scientific is that? So when you embrace all of you, you do come to obviously notice masculine and feminine energy. And again, it doesn't have really anything to do with how you express yourself sexually, although it's above, so below. But the deeper idea is just give and receive. Be strong and be soft, right? Like, why can't we be all of it? And to me, that's what the Anahat system's about. So thank you for that question, because it helps to give some more insight for tonight. All right, feel free to use the chat pod for anything else. Someone said, is sexual energy and Kundalini energy the same thing? Yes and no. The better term to use in Sanskrit would be Shakti. Everything is Shakti, except you might say Source itself, because Source emanates Shakti. God said, let there be light. The light steps itself down through the chakra system. I was out hiking yesterday and, like walking around the mountains and how solid everything is. The mountains I live in are mostly granite. So these things are dense. It's like as dense as you can get almost. Like it's not quite lead, right? But seriously dense stuff. And your body is very dense. So everything you're seeing and perceiving in this physical world is Shakti, which is the energy of tens of thousands of atomic bombs, right? We know that in 1 square inch of space is the energy of something like tens of thousands of atomic bombs. In 1 square inch of space, every atom is that much power. I'm not giving exact numbers, obviously, but the idea is inside of every atom is nuclear bomb type energy, right? E equals mc squared. So how can all of that intense energy manifest down to just a human form? The human with our cerebral spinal axis and the chakra system, well, mostly the chakra system here, steps down the energy. Chakras are like energy transformers. So if you have all the energy of a nuclear power plant, you can't plug that into your 120-volt light. Right? We have transformers with big wires. There's big wires, and then it steps down the transformer to smaller wires and another transformer, and they keep lowering the voltage, the wattage, the amperage, whatever, until it gets into your house and you can use it. So consider this descending triangle is you, but really just divine energy coming into a human body, not just coming into it, to manifest a human body. Your sexual energy, in Chinese medicine, we call that Jing, remember? The Jing is a very purified, it takes a lot of energy for the body to manifest, especially like for the male body to manifest semen. You basically get all the energy of all that is, comes together to form that. I'm not saying it's the whole purpose of existence, but for procreation, right? It's a pretty important substance. And so I'm mostly talking about a male body here, just because I won the reference. So the energy comes down, that's Shakti. Now, it wants to ascend back up the core central channel. It wants to, and you guys can feel it, those of you who are open to it now, you want to go up. The energy wants to return to source. It's called a day and a night in Brahma. Brahma emanates all this energy, and then it returns to source. Kundalini is that the Kundalini is considered a dormant snake. It's a serpent fire, but it's dormant. It's the evolutionary energy within us. It's pushing us forward. But in most people, it's sitting at the base of the spine. We're going to look at stages of spiritual growth there. 99% of humanity, I don't know the exact number. I know when I say that, I'm like, it's not statistically accurate, probably. I hope there's more awakened people than 99.99%. But most people, it's safe to say, do not have awakened Kundalini. The Shakti is lying dormant at the base of the spine. But what does that actually mean? It means it can't make its way back up through the chakras because there's all this suppression, emotional suppression, blockages, right? People hold memories, beliefs, emotions in what we call the subconscious mind, which is really just a storehouse of all your past stuff that you haven't moved through, forgiven, and resolved yet. When you purify enough of the system, and it's the best way to do it, is you get pure enough, eventually the Shakti awakens. When it does, then we call it Kundalini Shakti. But it's been storing down at the first chakra region where the sexual energy very much is. So sexual energy is the physical manifestation of Shakti. Kundalini Shakti is the energetic manifestation of that. But remember, wherever energy goes, blood follows, or life force and in a sense, substance will follow. So as the Shakti comes down, it forms Kundalini on the astral level. On the physical level, that's going to be sexual energy. So while we say we pull the sexual energy up the spine, well, you're not pulling semen up your spine, right? Probably not. Just like I say, breathe into your belly. Well, your lungs stop on your chest. It doesn't go all the way to your belly. But you can feel an energy that goes down to your belly. So we need to understand, and we will more throughout this training, there's a physical body, there's an etheric body, there's an astral body, And then the more subtle bodies probably don't deserve the term body, but you have a mental body, a causal body, what you might call the soul body. But again, at these higher levels, the word body is kind of misleading. So while we're breathing into meditation 4, the numbers, now that I'm teaching it, I'm thinking about all the numbers and names again, but when I'm practicing, I'm not like, okay, meditation 4, sexual energy. I just, go there. So meditation 4, sexual energy, we're cultivating that. Now, are you cultivating more fluid there? Probably, but that's not really the goal. The goal is to cultivate more Shakti there. When the Kundalini Shakti is ready to awaken, it'll start ascending up the spine. It starts purifying blockages very fast, and its goal is to get back up to the third eye, to the crown. I actually had not an aha moment, because I know that I've known this for quite a while. There in a past class, somebody asked about the halo, and then I was doing screen share and I forgot in the transition. So here's a moment to talk about that briefly. We'll talk about it with meditation 9, wings. When the Kundalini makes it up to here, it starts forming a halo shape, which is that sphere here. And that's what you see around the heads of saints, right? In every tradition, but especially like in Christianity, they, if you're sitting with a saint in a well-lit room, not too light, not too dark, and they're really in the zone, you will see light emanating from their being. It'll express physically, but really you can see that aura. So that's what happens when the Kundalini makes it up to here. In alchemy, you see that in the Greek healing staff of Hermes, the caduceus, which is that medical staff of the core central channel, the 2 snake-like channels, and then usually there's an eye, the third eye. And some of you, because of ascending, have seen your third eye as like an eyeball. It's not all it is, but you've seen that. And then it branches out as wings. So don't practice that yet, but that'll be meditation 9 when I get to it. So good question. That's all I can say about it, but I think that was thorough, so thank you. Someone said I'm working on being grounded in my breath throughout the day. It is getting better. My dreams are changing as well as I go. I have better sensitivity to predators, energy vampires. Okay, that'd be worth probably commenting on. Empaths, codependent shells, more intuition. The mind machine is better tuned. This is the general report. Nice, thank you for the report. Let me encourage you with this Course in Miracles quote. What is real cannot be threatened. What is unreal does not exist. Herein lies the peace of God. Remember the RAS, the reticular activating system? If you have something internally, an idea, spiritual vampire, predator, first you see it inside. That's how it works. Then you project it out in the world. Then you will perceive it there. There are no spiritual vampires. There are no predators. I get it on the practical level. There are criminals, there are rapists, there are murderers. To say they don't exist would be crazy. But let me encourage you to just get it out of your radar. There's no murderers in my radar. There's no rapists in my radar. I get nothing out of that idea. And remember, ideas that are shared are strengthened. So to me, there's love inside of me, and there's love outside of me. Only loving and harmonious relationships. In A Course in Miracles, it teaches love needs no defense. So when we have to defend ourselves from external negative, supposedly, in quotes, external negative energy, it's important to realize that whatever you're seeing outside of you is a reflection of you. Because you don't see the outside world. You see it inside. You actually see what you want to see. In A Course in Miracles, you see what you want to see internally first. Then you project it onto the world, and then you see it there. So projection makes perception. You project onto the world, then you perceive it there. To get free of that kind of stuff, we heal ourselves, we purify our own hearts, and then we stop valuing it or wanting it in any way, and we stop defending against it. Love needs no defense. So thank you for the report. There's a good chance to share on that topic. And tomorrow night, Monday, in the recording, this won't matter anymore, but it'll be on YouTube, June 29th, 2020, in the same meeting room for my Monday night Conscious Community class. We will be doing another Course in Miracles class again, and this will be on special relationships and holy relationships. And that'll really speak to this idea of what are your relationships? And if relationships are spiritual vampires, predators, even this term codependent, then yes, you want to take responsibility, right, for how is that inside of you? How are you looking for it out there? How are you projecting out there? How are you seeing it out there? And the way to get free is inside. Awesome, thank you. Someone said, I find that when I'm following each meditation, my Shakti, it's spelled, it doesn't matter, but just so you know, Shakti with an S. Shakti has an intelligence of its own, absolutely. As I'm breathing with focus and concentration, I can feel its subtle transition from heart to heart and brow to crown without my conscious will. And it feels as though I'm merely an observer of a greater process. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, because that's how it started moving in me. I'm sitting in meditation in the woods, like 12 hours a day of meditation. And all of a sudden, the Shakti starts moving in these patterns. And I'm not the one who did that. That's why the idea of control, the life force energy, is a word I'm very careful of. We don't have a good English word for the Sanskrit word yam. Yam is translated as control, but why would you control an intelligent energy? All right, but we can. So Shakti is chi. We can cultivate, we can find our chi, we can cultivate chi, we can move our chi. But once you understand chi is divine intelligence, you're better off letting it do its own thing. Right? Like you can heal a broken bone, a doctor can, well, here's that quote: doctors diagnose, God heals. Or to eat is human, to digest is divine. All right, so we have something to do. Like there's an what is it? Autonomic bodily functions, right? You can, like breathing, you can choose to consciously breathe, or the body just breathes on its own. That's the relationship with the Shakti. You can choose to just watch it do its thing, that's surrender, and surrender is a very high teaching, right? Or we can cultivate the chi. We can consciously, mindfully breathe and focus. Remember, Anahat is meant to embrace all of who we are. So if you said more feminine energy is yin, surrendering, then a more masculine energy, yang, would be more yang, more controlling, but only controlling in the sense of gathering, cultivating, working with it, moving it. Focus, right? Focus would be a more yang energy, and then just relaxing, dispersing would be more feminine. Again, both are really important in this. So thank you for sharing. And yeah, I would totally agree with your statement that I'm merely an observer of a greater process. We're going to look very soon at Lesson 5's PDF workbook manual, and I had to come, let's start to go into that. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. I'm going to pull that, oh, I have a big note in front of me. There's no class on July the 12th, so we have class next week. After that, I have to teach at our hypnotherapy school, one of our locations for practicals. We found a way to do it during COVID times, at least out here in California for now. So no class, whatever for the reason, but no class on July the 12th, but we'll pick it up right after that, on the weekend after for sure. All right, thank you everybody for sharing and your questions. Let's open today's, trying to just get the camera to focus better. Usually if you move around. All right, apologize, it's a little blurry. So we have 3 goals today. One is to get through this lesson, and then I have some, well, if we don't get to it, I have additional teachings on stages of spiritual growth, and then of course I want to spend some time in the meditation cushion with everybody. All right, so I put this together today, and I can tell you, past Matthew, it's really good he did all this, because I would never, I pulled today from 2 of my books, the Anahat Meditation System, also known as the Journals of Michael Devane, and the Sacred Geometry Meditation. And thank God in my 20s and 30s I did all this, because honestly I wouldn't do it now. So we thank past Matthew for his efforts. Now I'm just honored to teach this stuff, but putting it together, like even here, CDs, I didn't catch that. So anyway, I'll tell you why I'm referencing that, because there's really good writing from the Journals of Michael Devane, the Anahat Meditation System book, in here. So we're on lesson number 5, meditation 6, the 6-pointed star. Updated the copyright. Again, please don't duplicate this in any way, and don't teach this to anybody without permission to do so. Here we have the glyph of meditation 6, the 6-pointed star. This is how I watch the energy move in my body. These are golden triangles. meaning to have the divine proportion, the golden ratio, embedded in the angles of those. The fascinating thing about studying the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio, phi, is it's in everything. You see it in spiraling galaxies and in acorns and pineapples and nautilus shells, and you see it in your body, in the spiral of your ear and the length of your digits. The whole universe is embedded with these geometrical principles, right? And science can't deny that this is here. You can't deny the precision of the body. But honestly, right now, I don't think science can tell you why. And it's like a really big question. Well, why is this like that? Is it just totally evolution that creates such perfect precision? And I think evolution is part of the picture, but not the only part of the picture. So anyway, when we're doing meditation, the numbers, again, I never think of them really in numbers. When we're doing the six-pointed star meditation, we're focusing in the lower descending triangle at the hara. And usually, actually, we start up at the top, right? Because we just did meditation. Meditation 4, sexual energy, we were there. Then meditation 5, we pulled the energy up to the crown. But let's start from the beginning real quick. Meditation 1, we're at the hara. We're embracing the descending energetic and very much of this descending triangle. We're not focused. You can be aware of that there's a much bigger, if you look at me, there's a much bigger sense of descending coming in. But really, we're focused very much from shoulders down to hara. And we're cultivating energy there, embracing all the lower chakras, really. Then we come up to the heart, and we know the value of that and how profound that spot is right there, that exact acupoint. It's called Ren 17, right at the center of your sternum. And then the inhalation up the core central channel nourishes the higher chakras, and our awareness of what's there is spirit. We take all that beauty, we bring it back to the sexual energy to infuse sexual energy with beauty and bliss and love, and it's going to purify all of that. Some people might think that's boring, but there's a Course in Miracles line that says, there's nothing more satisfying. The wholly satisfying nature of reality is the exact quote. The wholly satisfying nature of reality. You don't have to make stuff up. It's already incredibly pleasurable just as it is. So you're just being with sexual energy as it is. But then we inhale it up the spine. Remember, it's naturally how it wants to go. It's not like we're forcing it to do something it doesn't want to do. It wants to go up the spine. It doesn't always want to be leaking outwards. It loves the movement up. And again, we're not just talking physical sexual essence like semen, we're talking energetic essence. That gets pulled up the spine, and we circulate it up in the crown. It nourishes the brain. You can focus in the frontal lobe. Like there's an idea of supercharging your frontal lobe, which is arguably what happens in enlightenment. There's some research done on that. But anyway, we're clearly nourishing the higher chakras in the brain when we do the circulation meditation 5. From there, we start moving through the patterns of the star. We inhale to the third eye, and then we're embracing all of this region, focusing on spirit. We exhale down to the shoulders, that's this line. And the shoulders will include the lungs right in this area where these lines intersect. This is the beginning of the lung meridian in Chinese medicine. Lung 1 and 2 are right here in this space below your clavicle, and then they go down the meridians, those meridians go down the arms. So we'll talk about that later. So we're very much nourishing the lung energy system here, not necessarily the physical lungs because they're bigger than those acupoints, but right there, if you feel there's a hollow below your clavicle, that is where the lung meridian starts. And again, we're dealing with energetics, not with the physical body. But when the energetic of the lung meridian is healthy, open, clear, and it's usually negative emotion that really messes with that. Predominantly, the lungs deal with sadness and grief. So as you're breathing into the lung energy system, you're not just healing your physical lungs, you're healing the energy body, the meridians that deal with that. And this system will cover all of the meridians in the Chinese medical system and all the meridians in the yogic nadi system. There's 70,000 supposedly yogic nadis in the yogic meridian system, but because we're dealing with these broad glyphs, these major movements of energy, you're covering all of your being, which I think is a very wise thing to do. So we exhale to the shoulders. We then inhale, gather all that energy down to the hara, which means you don't have to go to the sexual energy every time you meditate. It's important to emphasize that, because if not, you just be walking around like because meditation should be a constant thing. And like I said, there's unexcited sexual energy, excited sexual energy, and then there's activated, so is the term I've been using lately for what I feel inside of me, activated sexual energy. It's always there, just like your breath and your heart and your lungs. It's just part of your being, and you've embraced it. You allow for it to be there. So the point is, you don't always have to focus on sexual energy when you meditate. And there's a wisdom of the system that you have meditation 1, the hara, meditation 2, the heart, meditation 3, the head. And then we could stay just within that region. We don't have to always go down the meditation 4 and meditation 5. But it's wonderful. It's nice, you know, and I'm very comfortable with doing that all the time now, but in the beginning, I honestly was really glad I didn't have to always embrace sexual energy every time I meditated. But now it's just part of all of one's being, of my being. All right. So we inhale to the hara, or down to the sexual energy region. We exhale up to the level of the kidneys, which is this, the base of the ascending triangle. Now, the idea of kidneys, again, relates to the energetic, not the exact physical location. Your kidneys are actually slightly offset. If you look at an anatomy picture, one is slightly higher than the other, because the system had to make room for everything. But anyway, you know, the general idea is when we exhale, the energy is going up to nourish the kidneys. The kidneys are considered the root of yin and yang of your whole body. They're intimately connected to fear, and they're obviously very connected to your adrenal glands. So while you're stuck in fight or flight mode, and also miserable, and therefore maybe misusing sexuality, and just, like you look at, sorry for the imagery, well, yeah, whatever. You look like a teenage guy who's like going home masturbating, like 5 times a day or whatever. It's in Chinese medicine, they would be like, what are you doing? What are you wasting so much life force? But if you're not fulfilled, which you don't expect a teenager to be, then the energy is you're just finding ways to feel pleasure and fulfillment. It's not what an advanced meditator obviously does with sexual energy. So here, we cultivate it at the hara, but then we disperse that up, or down to the sexual energy, and disperse that up into the kidneys. The kidneys are where the sexual essence comes from. So this system, in all its wisdom, but really it's the Anahata system, but it's really just what your energy does in your body when it's healthy, is it flows back up, nourishes the kidneys and the adrenal glands. Because you're meditating on peace and love and not fear, you'll get out of fight or flight mode, your adrenal glands will relax, and you won't suffer from adrenal depletion, right? It's a huge cause of illness. So, again, I just watched in 1996 the energy moving in these patterns. It took years to research and understand. I was led for education before the revelations occurred that helped me to understand them, but it took, it was like 11 years before I finished the Sacred Geometry Meditation book. All this is, incredibly well researched, and everything, as you can see, is extremely precise. So anyway, the main thing to be aware of is the heart when you do meditation 6, the 6-pointed star. The heart is always the center, and like some of you have felt, you don't want to leave the ascending place, but you kind of need to, and we'll talk about that today in stages of spiritual growth. So you're inhaling up, exhaling to shoulders, inhaling to hara, exhaling to kidneys, inhaling to head. But your heart is the center of that. And the best way to practice meditation 6, meditation 6, the 6-pointed star. Is that right? Yeah. Again, I never think of it as numbers. So meditation 6, the 6-pointed star. You're focusing on the heart. You can keep more awareness up here or more awareness down in the hara region. But in the end, Anahat is a star within a star. This picture doesn't quite show it only because these lines right here in this circle, if I connected these points to this point, right, and these points to this point, it's just simply drawing lines there, you would see a very clear six-pointed star at the heart. So we have a star within a star within a star within a star. If you zoom in, there's always smaller stars. If you zoom out, there's always bigger stars. And that's the idea of a fractal. If you want to study fractal geometry, it's fascinating. You can research the Mandelbrot set or the Julia set. There's some others, but those have really profound spiritual implications. I mean, there's lots of others. Specifically, you could just do research on, oh God, there's so many books and whatnot. I studied over years. It's a good book called The Divine Proportion. And the idea of looking at, it's called the Koch, the Koch snowflake. You can look at that. And that is a six-pointed star fractal idea that's found in fractal geometry. All right, so that's kind of an overview of what we covered last time and a bit more insight into it. For this workbook, we have the idea of remembering to log when you started the meditation and when you feel in your own humility that you're proficient in the meditation. I didn't take the time to page number this today, to paginate this document, so it's not very big and you probably won't look at it too often anyway. So the first thing I did, because I'm not in a writing mood anymore, I don't write books anymore. Yeah, thank God I did back in the early days. So the Journals of Michael Devane, now called the Anahat Meditation System. You're going to read about the lead character, Michael, his initiation into the system by his teacher, John, just a fictitious character, but basically I am Michael and I'm John in the book. And Michael's the student, John's the teacher. And he's taught about the story, which is pure fiction, but it has some undertones to who I feel I am. It has undertones to a person who existed thousands of years ago. I just gave him the name Ram. It's spelled R-A-M, so you might think it's Ram, but you don't hear it pronounced in the book. It's one of the holy names of God. I don't claim that's my name or a past life name, but it's the name I chose for that character in the book. But again, it implies a very deep self-realized being. So that's the character who these revelations came to thousands of years ago in the fiction of the book. Then in the 1800s, John is initiating Michael and other monastics into these teachings. Again, that's fiction. But it says in these writings, back in those days, people weren't ready for these teachings yet. Now they are. Now you can go on YouTube and find sacred geometry all over the place and fractal geometry. And then you can see the practical benefits of this stuff, where back in the 1800s, who would care about the fact that your body aligns with sacred geometrical grids, right? You just care about plowing the soil or whatnot. So now that we're at a time where we don't have to deal with food, shelter, clothing, finances, a lot of us, don't have to deal with first chakra issues anymore. We're able to focus on the higher chakras. So anyway, please read that. Don't copy it anywhere else. It is pulled directly from the Journals of Michael Devane book, which is copywritten and published. And then there is the longer explanation about this meditation from the Sacred Geometry Meditation book, and then the shorter meditation, which is always in these workbooks. And then we have the symbols. So the recordings are online now, as I showed you. Lesson 5, meditation 6, and then the whole guided meditation that takes you through meditations 1 through 6, if you want that extra help. So I'm not going to read all this, but as I mentioned, I would allude to it. So this lead character, Ram, from 4,000 years ago in India. Technically, I do have a past life I remember in India, but I don't claim that that's actual history. But I resonate. Obviously, I lived in India, so obviously I connect with that. So that's kind of part of the origins of this in fiction anyway. But fiction always has a little truth to it, I think. So this talks about he was really ecstatic. He could barely function. He wasn't able to stay in his body. He didn't know how to be fully grounded. He saw two kinds of people, those who were engrossed in the materialism of the world or external religion, called the exoteric, not the esoteric, but the exoteric forms of religion, and then strange holy men who were drunk on God but couldn't take care of their physical needs. So this character wanted to be able to integrate that. And then it talks about the movement of energy, not that he was doing it himself, as one of you had mentioned before. light piercing his third eye point, going down to his lungs, going down to his navel, then to his kidneys, circulating itself. So I hope you read this. It's really fun to read. I never read this. I wrote it and then published it, and that was it. I don't read my own books over and over again. So I hope you'll study this section. The date. I'm not sure the book actually has page numbers. The manuscript I opened to pull this from didn't have page numbers, but the date in the book for this writing is August 25th, 1804. Again, that's just fiction. Okay, so it talks about how this being named Ram founded a mystical order known as the Anahat Order of Sacred Service on the astral plane, meaning not physical, non-physical beings hold this information. And I believe there is, in my experience of who I am, truth to that. I definitely have confirmations, my own experiences of being part of a brotherhood. I like to say brother, sisterhood, but it feels very masculine, it's like male beings who are holding this information, who disseminate the teachings, but obviously brother and sisterhood, because we're all about yin and yang here. It says here, people are just not ready for this yet, as it's well before its time. And then John goes on to initiate Michael in the meditation. These are the 4 movements: inhale to the third eye, exhale to the lungs, inhale to the hara. See, not the sexual energy. You can go there if you want, but you don't have to, and you don't always want to. Inhale to the hara, exhale to the kidneys. Okay, and then, there we go. All right, let's cover this. So we have this 60-degree, the 2 equilateral interlacing triangles. That's not really where the energy flows. It flows more in these golden triangles. 72 degrees, 36 degrees is what makes for them to be golden triangles. And that's what we see fits into Metatron's cube beautifully. Inhale to the third eye, exhale to the shoulders, inhale to the hara, exhale to the kidneys, and inhale back to the third eye to repeat the cycle. The focus is on pulling the physical to the spiritual, and the spiritual to the physical, fully grounded, fully open to spirit. In the Heart Sutra of Buddhism, it says very clearly, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. And everything we could reference, including E equals MC squared, is the idea that matter is really just energy, and there's really only energy. It appears like there's matter, but really there's only energy. But we have something called matter, or physical, which is an illusion. And then we have something called spirit, consciousness, light, which is the reality. But we're allowing the reality to be present to who we are as human. I saw something. I don't see the chat pod. Give me a moment. Somebody type, but sometimes Zoom just doesn't let me see it while we're doing screen share. So you can read this. It just talks all about, how that energy moves. And then meditation 6, the 6-pointed star. So the very clear pattern here, I'll just read this because it's short. The ascending and descending triangles are both incorporated in this meditation, which forms the essence of the entire system. Again, this one meditation is how it all started. There's meditations that precede it, meditations that follow it, but this is the essence of the system. The positions of the star itself are the same as in meditations 1 and 3. Right, so we're talking about ascending, descending triangles, but the breath moves within the regions of the third eye, shoulders, hara, and kidneys while remaining centered around the heart. I'm not sure last week I emphasized as much that we got all these 4 major regions now, but we're very much keeping our attention at Anahat, unless you choose to be more ascended at any given time. But if you're working like me to function in this world, but still be fully open to spirit, then the heart is always the place to be. All right, and then the meditation symbols. So remember, we started at the 1 o'clock position. Now we're down at the 6 o'clock position. And obviously, the symbol is the 6-pointed star. I don't think I have to comment more on that. Fruition for this. To me, when you are complete with this meditation, you are very complete. The meditations that follow are really good. I'm glad they're there. But sometimes I'll just do meditation, especially now as I'm teaching you guys, and I'm stopping pretty much I mean, I do the whole system every day, but I'm stopping mostly, or let's just say I'm putting most of my time and energy for meditations 1 to 6, and then like stopping there. I'm not doing 7 to 12 or even too much of level 2 and 3, because I'm largely kind of keeping pace with you guys, although I do all that other stuff because it's just part of who I am now. So the point about fruition is you're going to feel very complete when this meditation is, you've done it long enough. It's going to be fully descended, so you've embraced all your lower chakras, 1, 2, and 3. You've embraced your heart, 4. You've embraced 5, 6, 7. The energy is ascending and descending. You're integrating more, not fully yet, but a lot more masculine and feminine qualities within your own being. So yeah, the way to understand fruition is fully grounded with a fully open heart, fully open to spirit. You can feel when there's blocks in the system, so your energy should be just flowing up and down very smooth without feeling like, oh, it just got stuck in my throat, or oh, there's a block in my heart. When you should be able to feel energy, first of all. And it should be pure. So hurt, sadness, fear, anger, guilt, revenge, these kind of things, defensiveness, that's not clear, right? So fruition of this is really where you're going to feel very close to perfect. The meditations that follow, which help to increase the perfection, if there is such a thing, but there is in the sense, it embraces all the meridians as we move along of the arms and legs and the microcosmic orbit. It embraces the Kundalini, core central channel, the Ida and Pingala nadis, those snake-like channels. It embraces the wings, which you see in this image. So notice how this image has the heart shape. This in sacred geometry is often in the core central channel, branching off into wings. That's that arcing motion is like the Earth's magnetic field, which is, as above, so below idea. That is the geometry of compassion, which is love, fully open. We'll see this in the stage of spiritual growth today. Fully open heart to love. I'm trying to say this quickly. When love sees pain, that is compassion. And you'll see this in the stage of spiritual growth. You'll be pure love, and yet you'll be blissing out alone in a cave somewhere. But the moment you see suffering, or, of course you're not stupid, so be aware there's suffering, you'll be moved to be of service. So meditation 9 wings, maybe it's 10. Again, I don't think of the numbers much. But anyway, the meditation on wings, dealing with this geometry of compassion, deals very much with the open heart. So that's beautiful. And then there's deeper integrations that occur. And the deepest integration is actually integrating it into the spinal, the skeletal system, which you would think like, well, why are we going back to the dense skeleton? But that's where we get into what's called yogic or Taoist bone breathing, where you're packing the bones with chi. There is a really beautiful, it's not even a story, it's real, it's true. Paramahansa Yogananda, one of the greatest yogic saints who came from the east to the west to teach us yogic philosophy, when he had bodily death, they call it Mahasamadhi, when a great yogi leaves his body for good, his body was kept out for 2 weeks, so devotees, could pay their respects, but it had no decay. And it emanated this beautiful fragrance, like flowers. And honestly, I'm just whatever, talking about myself and about bodily smells. But I'm like, wow, my body smells like really good. Like even honestly, bowel movements. I'm like, you're not supposed to smell that good. So it's kind of awkward to talk about. But if you're eating super pure and you're living this kind of lifestyle, your body, Dr. Gabriel Cousens introduced me to this idea, your body becomes a superconductor for divine energy. You can read about that in his book, Spiritual Nutrition and the Rainbow Diet. The idea of superconductor, in science and physics, a superconductor has no resistance. When you send energy through a wire, electrons through a wire, electricity, the wire gets hot. And when you look at a light bulb, for instance, right, it gets hot because the electrons are meeting against resistance. And in a superconductor, there is no resistance. You want to consider you as the human become a superconductor for divine energy. that is the state of saintliness, of sainthood. There are no blocks. You're extremely pure. So technically, that's fruition for meditation 6, the 6-pointed star. But you don't have to wait until your body is emanating fragrance for you to say, hey, I have fruition of this. But you want to feel fully grounded, fully open heart, ideally with no emotional blocks, and fully open to spirit. But that can happen within 5 or 10 years of intense spiritual practice. After that, your life just keeps getting better. Okay, so it's a little bit about fruition and maybe some of the deepest sense, like Paramahansa Yogananda. And there's also, again, this is like off the charts, rare, but there are stories of saints who don't have to eat. The phenomenon is called anedia, Inedia. NASA actually has studied saints who are breatharians, where they don't have to eat food. And it's like, wow, what a great way to go into outer space if the astronauts didn't have to eat. So literally, NASA scientists studied breatharians. It's extremely rare, but it's documented in religious literature, and the idea is the same. And same with the idea of saints who are floating. The body is just so light, so filled with chi. In my early days, when Kundalini was awakening and the system was already relatively pure, I remember just going outside running, just because I was filled with so much joy. And it felt like the runner's high, where you're barely touching the ground. My body felt so incredibly light. And, just again, giving you a feel for what some sense of fruition is. But none of us have to be superconductors for divine energy, who smell absolutely beautiful, whose bodies don't decay. They literally dig up saints, years later, and their bodies haven't decayed. They have become superconductors for divine energy. But again, I'm not claiming anything, nor do I feel like fruition means we have to be up at those levels. So I have pages for notes here. And as far as when you're ready to move on, I purposely kept this very small practice for at least a month, but we're doing this weekly, so that's kind of up to you. Feel proficient with this practice, then you're ready for the next set of lessons. You will know in your heart if you're ready or not, if you have any doubts. If you're not ready, then do not worry. Just keep practicing and move on when you are. So you can keep attending live Sunday night classes while we're doing these live right now. And you're going to want to have the meditation. That's meditation 7. It's called the Star Reversed. It's a really wonderful experience. And just to be introduced to it is great. Are you really ready to fully grasp it? Maybe not. But I'd encourage you to keep doing the weekly classes, even if you don't feel like you have proficiency on these meditations yet. And then it's a lifetime practice. It's 5 or 10 years, which we'll talk about soon with stages of spiritual growth. All right, on that notion, I'm going to try not to run over. Any questions? Author's name so ask any questions if you got them. Let me start from the top down. Somebody said, I'm a little confused in the way of exhaling in this meditation 6. I feel that I am all over my internal organs. Okay, good. Level 2, we're in level 1 right now. I teach meditations 1 through 12, and then eventually level 2 is meditations 1 through 12, but in more of a 3-dimensional focus. Level 1 is more 2-dimensional, but your body is not 2-dimensional, right? So when I look at the images on the screen, they're 2-dimensional. Your body is 3-dimensional. So if it helps, it's okay. I'm just trying not to allude too much to 3 dimensions yet, but your body is 3-dimensional. As you inhale to the hara, it's like, so the descending triangle is not actually just a triangle. It's a tetrahedron. It has 3 spheres here. Look at this level. I can't put my hands exactly, but like here and here. And then it goes down to the sphere at the hara region. When you exhale, the energy is going up. It's kind of going up. I'm going to show you a picture. I think you probably know what I mean. Descending triangle, we go to more or less the base of it, to the hara region. As we exhale, we're breathing up to the base of the ascending triangle where the kidneys are. But it's not only your kidneys. On the left, you can kind of visualize more spleen, pancreas, stomach. In Chinese medicine, that'd be more the energetic. Those are on the left. And on the right is your liver and gallbladder. Of course, for women, there's a uterus, there's the urinary bladder, and then there's the intestines. So all of that is being bathed in that exhalation. And so your question is really good. You have to keep it simple. And the way it came to me in meditation, it was clearly nourishing the kidneys, but there's every reason to believe it's also nourishing the digestive system and it's nourishing the liver. Liver in Chinese medicine deals a lot with the free flow of blood through the system. It has a lot to do with anger and it has a lot to do with when it's blocked or stagnant, the liver qi gets stagnant. Then you have painful menses. And a lot of times when there's early childhood sexual abuse, the liver energy gets stagnant, filled with a lot of hurt and anger and fear. But largely, that block is affecting the flow through the whole system. It's affecting the flow of blood. And blood in the sense of, for women, for your menses, that painful menses, it don't have to be that painful, but it has a lot to do with those blocks. So as we exhale from hara to kidneys, we're essentially nourishing all the internal organs. So see it as a little bit more three-dimensional now because your body is. I'm not going to ask if that helped, because whether it does or not, that's my explanation, because we're limited on time. So hopefully that helped. Next one said, said going from kidneys up, do we inhale to the crown or third eye chakra? Okay, so the teachings say, like the early teachings, 2005, when I put all this together, but the Sacred Geometry book, again, took 11 years to write. That was, and the Journals of Micah Devane, the Anahat Meditation book, that's all referring to third eye, just third eye, third eye. But what are you actually focusing on? It's not really just your forehead. Right, that's not the seat of enlightenment. Enlightenment isn't that you can put all your attention on this bone. Right? Enlightenment isn't to focus in your skull. The third eye represents here the space between, above and between the two physical eyes, behind the forehead, and so what's in there if you just focus there? Well, it's different for everybody depending on how open you are, but eventually what you're going to experience are the higher chakras, which is really just spirit, consciousness. Now, again, in level 1, we're focusing on the physical body, which is largely in the glyphs two-dimensional, even though obviously it's three-dimensional. But it's okay to start to grasp what's actually here, right? You want to start to know what's in your higher chakras. The best word for that, perhaps, is consciousness, the I am presence, spirit. Spirit is very much 7th chakra, but if you look at the glyphs, there's like a sphere that goes here. So the sphere of awareness contains that whole area. So really you're just focusing on consciousness, which we are saying consciousness and spirit are the same thing, the same substance, the same reality. So when you inhale up, you can just focus here at the third eye. Just like I said, you can stop at the hara. You can stop at the 2nd chakra. You don't have to go all the way down to the 1st. You can stop at the 6th chakra. You don't have to go all the way up to the 7th. But unlike the lower chakras, where sometimes we just don't want to deal with sexual energy, it's nice to just go to hara, leave the sexual energy alone. When you go up here, you're always better off just focusing on spirit. There's, the 6th chakra deals with vision, internal, not physical vision really, but internal vision, intuition, psychic vision, life's purpose, your bigger mission. That's valuable, but you'll always get that by going to the highest. So to me, when I ascend, I just go up into spirit. I'm not really focused on the body. Okay, then someone said, please give the author's name of Superconductor Diet. Dr. Gabriel Cousens, Cousens, I believe. He's been an influential teacher of mine throughout the years. I've got to meet him a few times, studied with him in Patagonia, Arizona. Did sessions with him actually because I was freaking out with my Kundalini. He was going nuts. He's very gifted in those. He's an absolutely beautiful being. Like one of the few human beings where I was like, wow, that's a beautiful person. So anyway, yeah, I recommend checking him out. Okay, and then, LOL, I've noticed a wonderful change in my digestion system and bowel movements too. This system is amazing because it's like a sophisticated style of breath work where it penetrates through any residual chakra, samskars blockages dormant within the body. Thank you. Absolutely. When I started feeling these movements, and probably was within, a few hours of like, wow, like there's energy moving in my system in very precise, you use the word sophisticated grids. I just knew that's going to purify every blockage, every sanskar over time. So right on. If your life essence holds an intelligence of its own, at which point do you shift from conscious will to observer? This system, that's a good question, of course. This system is conscious will. It's like yoga. You hold a yoga pose, you're breathing, you're maybe counting. Like when I teach yoga, I count from 1 to 10 because that's how long I know to hold a pose to tell the group that, time to move to the next pose. That's all very conscious will. When I do Tai Chi, I'm moving I can't keep my hands on, I'm moving the energy consciously. I'm consciously doing a practice. It's called sadhana or spiritual practice. So if you did a yoga class, you do like an hour and a half or so, an hour, 20 minutes, let's say, of all the body stretching and breathing. It's a lot of conscious will. The last 10 minutes or so, the teacher will have you lie down in what's called Shavasana, translated as corpse pose, but the better translation of Shavasana would be immortal pose. My teacher in India made that beautifully clear. So at the end of a yoga practice, when you're in immortal pose, Shavasana, that's when you let go. So when I'm meditating, I will often start with Anahats, to go through the whole system, feel it, do everything it's meant to do. And usually like my evening practice, which will usually starts in about a half hour, but by 7 o'clock for sure, I am on the yoga mat, lying in corpse pose, Shavasana, palms up, usually thumb and index finger touching, and I let all my energy just settle, and then I surrender there. I totally relax, just pure surrender, be the observer. But then I'll start doing yoga practice. I'll do usually a half hour to an hour of body stretching, sometimes movement at that time, but I don't want to move too much energy at night or I won't sleep. So I try to keep it pretty subdued and gentle at night, super blissful, but very peaceful. And then I'll go through the Anahat system, so everything's just illuminated and awesome in there. And then I can just surrender and let go. So first we practice, then we relax. And you'll see that when we go through the Buddhist ox herding pictures now. So great questions and sharing. Thank you. All right. Let's spend some time on that and then we'll get on the cushion. I made this today for you guys. I teach this all the okay, that'll work. I teach this stuff every chance I get. So some of you may, we can go to slideshow, right? Yeah, I didn't plan this out for where I think in the recording, the camera pod is going to block some of the text there, but I moved me down to the bottom right, at least for class now. So we'll leave it there for now. I feel so low. Let's keep it. Oops, just a sec. Okay, so this is in my book, Interpersonal Hypnotherapy. I believe it's in the Journals of Michael Devane, the Anahat Meditation System book. It's definitely in the Sacred Geometry Meditation. It's in our hypnotherapy school's curriculum. So to me, this is extremely valuable. And we have time today, so this is a place I decided to share this with you. And I'll do my best to not take more than a half hour. Then we'll get on the cushion to conclude today's class. The idea here, stages of spiritual growth. Like I said when we started today, I want you to understand where the spiritual path is going. There is a place it goes. The stages are universal. Anybody who does any spiritual practice will eventually go through these stages. It doesn't matter what religion you're in. It doesn't matter at all. This is universal. But it came about, largely it was actually in the Taoist tradition. They had 8 stages of spiritual growth. And then in the Zen tradition, because Zen is a rather evolved form of spiritual practice, they realized there are actually latter stages, even in early Buddhism. There would have just been the first 8 stages, but then the Mahayana tradition of Buddhism realized, no, there's clearly 2 more stages as we evolve on our spiritual path, which we'll definitely look at today. And but the name of being Buddhist, being ox herding, in a Zen monastery once, there was a Zen teacher who went and checked on his student who was washing dishes. And the teacher said to the student, "What are you doing?" And the student said, "I'm taming an ox." He's just doing dishes, but he said, I'm taming an ox, which means doing the dishes is spiritual practice. Being mindful doing the dishes is spiritual practice. Only doing the dishes is real meditation, not just sitting on the cushion. Every moment Zen, every moment meditation. But he realized he's got this ox, which is really, in a sense, right now, we can look at it as the ego, which is really kind of, in a sense, one's identity. So these are extremely valuable teachings, but the reason I'm mentioning them here, because I have taught them a lot, is there's a way of teaching them with geometry, which to me is fascinating. And so I meditated a lot on these stages. And then, as I was doing the Sacred Geometry book, I realized we could represent this in a geometric unfolding. Okay, so Buddhist Ox Herder series and the Anahat meditation system. Let me move my camera image. Yeah, I'll put it in the bottom right, but whatever, in the video, it's probably in the top right. Okay, so here we have a picture of a boy. Oh, by the way, I have the copyright permission from the publisher to reproduce these images, so don't reproduce these without permission, because I was using these in a published book. I contacted the original publisher, owns the copyright to this art, and I have the permission to use these. Okay, so here's a boy. It could be a boy or a girl, it's man or woman, but it's represented as young, naive, searching. And you'll see in one hand is a whip, in one hand is a rope, but I'm just going to say boy because that's what the pictures show. But the boy doesn't know what he's looking for, but he's clearly looking for something. This is where spiritual growth begins. Most likely, if you're here watching these videos, in the live class, you have gone through this stage. Seeking the ox, I said ox could be considered ego, but in the beginning, the ego, or the sense of identity of who you really are, the ox represents spirit. The ox represents God, but ego is just a way of saying who you think you are. And in the beginning, you think you're a human being, and you are looking for something more because human is not complete, right? There's no way that your body is all of who you are. And how did you get here? Where are you going? So again, I don't have the statistics, but I would say 99% of humanity has not awoken spiritually. They're still asleep. They're definitely not done with the path. That's, the very, very rare percentage who made it through the whole thing. But here the beginning seeker is seeking. And he doesn't even know what he's looking for, but you're probably asking questions at this time. You might start finding some books, but they really don't even mean that much yet because you don't know what they're pointing to. The real question in a seeker's mind at this stage would be, there's got to be something more. Now, that's the general synopsis of this picture. The image on the right, which is the six-pointed star, notice it's the star with, I'll go back, it's the star without the circle. So we're starting here in the 1 o'clock position. This doesn't relate exactly at all to the meditation system. There's 10 stages here, and we have 12 petals, we have 12 meditations. They don't correlate at all. But again, it's just an interesting way to teach this. These should be numbered, by the way, but the Word document, when I copied and pasted here, didn't put the numbers. So here would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so at the 1 o'clock position, notice how the final glyph at 10 has a circle around it. The circle, remember, in sacred geometry represents spirit. Here, this being doesn't know who he really is. He doesn't know he's spirit. Maybe some subtle intuition, right, that's guiding him, of course, but the identity is still totally human. The six-pointed star without the circle would represent the human, right? The glyph is what forms our body. So that's why I chose to use the star here to represent it. Just a person who thinks he or she is the body and has no real spiritual awareness whatsoever. But the seeking has begun. Every stage, by the way, will take about 2 years or so. At least a year usually to go through. If you're actively engaging spiritual practice, it might go quicker, but this person isn't. So he might spend years in this stage. If you're teaching this system, or if you're a transpersonal hypnotherapist or interpersonal hypnotherapist or through our school, you're in some ways a spiritual counselor. And it's really good to know where's your student, right? If your student says, there's got to be something more. Why am I here? I mean, yeah, I came in to clear emotional blocks. I'm asking for help to get through my emotional issues, but is that all there is? I mean, who am I? Somebody who comes in just to clear their emotional blocks to a well-trained therapist or hypnotherapist, whatever, it doesn't mean they're spiritually awakening yet. They're just a human being who is suffering. Just because you're religious, it doesn't mean you're spiritually awake, spiritually on the path. Exoteric religion can just be people who go to a church, who read a book, but they have no real. So the thing is, somebody who's seeking like this wants the direct connection, the spirit. They need to know God. So I can use the word God here, we'll kind of know what I mean. Consciousness, spirit, or the ox, right? The ox is God. And this being has not experienced God, but he really wants to know God. Where religious people, it's like, well, when I die, I'll go to heaven if I'm lucky, if I do the right things, and maybe I'll see God then. That's not a mystic. So this person is becoming a mystic. It's the soul longing to know its source again, but there's no circle in the glyph on the right because there's no spiritual awareness yet. Then number 2, and I'm teaching this as if it's linear now, but at the end we'll look at it again as the pieces of a pie and how it's not necessarily linear. And you want to kind of embrace all 10 of these as not necessarily linear, which means in stage 1, this is beginner's mind. And when you meet a beginning seeker who's just so open-minded and they're just like, yeah, teach me, I want to learn, I know there's more, I'm not just caught up in my analytical reasoning, scientific mind anymore, I'm not just a body, teach me. Those people are wonderful, but you never want to lose that. You always want to keep beginner's mind. A really good book to read on the spiritual path is Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Shunryu Suzuki, so that we always keep our practice pure. We always keep Zen mind, beginner's mind, always beginner's mind, always don't know mind. The state of the enlightened mystic is don't know. Okay, so here, finding the footprints, stage 2, step 2, not really stage, just say step 2. Step 2, he's finding the footprints. He still has a whip and a rope, but he doesn't know why he has them, but he's got momentum going. The footprints are the teachings of the masters. The seeker has been, you know what, I'm getting distracted by the need to pee, and I'm thinking about ways to do it. So I'm just going to pause the recording. I believe we can do. You guys, let's do it now. Let's take a 5-minute break, and we'll come right back. Just 5 minutes, and I'm just going to pause. Oh, wait, can we? Hold on. Just pause sharing. Yeah, 1 sec. Pause. Okay, we took a little bathroom break. I needed to pee. So let's continue here. Now I can be a little more relaxed about it. So in step 2, finding the footprints, here the seeker, who again has whip and rope, but doesn't know why he has those, which means he has inner resources, inner abilities that are still dormant. He doesn't have really any clue about who he is. But the footprints are the teachings of the great masters, the writings of great saints and sages, yogic masters, Buddhist masters there, but in any tradition. So again, it doesn't have to be Buddhist or Taoist. You find this in Hinduism, of course, Christianity. It's when the seeker finally realizes, wow, there's actually real teachings and people who have walked the path before him. I like the idea at this stage of trying to get through a jungle. You realize you're on this side of the jungle, like you don't want to be on. You intuit there's another side of the jungle. And you don't know how to get through, but you've been seeking, you sure want to go on this journey. There is a path, but you don't see a path. To try to carve your way through the jungle on your own would be a big mistake. Yet to follow in the footprints of somebody already carved a path would be actually extremely wise. And that's what this being starts doing. So here, this the idea in stage 2 is when the student is ready, the teacher will come. So this is where you're getting books, you're meeting teachers, and usually at this stage you find somebody who's usually following the guru, is what they call it, where you're you become a devotee in a sense, and you usually find your great teachers, and you're going to spiritual centers, you might be doing yoga classes, meditation classes, you're just studying everything you can. And usually what's happening here is you are digging a lot of small holes, while trying to dig for gold. You're like pushing into the jungle a little, but then like, oh, that path goes down the jungle a little, and you go a little there. Some, maybe a little Christianity here, a little Christian mysticism, a little Jewish mysticism, a little Buddhism, a little Taoism. It's okay. I'm a religious philosophy scholar. I studied all this stuff. But eventually I learned you have to dig one deep hole. I had a monk actually say to me, you're at this early stage, he goes, you are like a person listening to 500 radios, tuned to 500 different stations, trying to discern one clear message. So the teaching there is to find a spiritual path. And Anahat, I do believe, can absolutely be a complete spiritual path. You might study some of the things I reference, like from Buddhism or Hinduism, or yoga, Christian mysticism. Eventually we'll talk about Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism. Yet it's all going to come back, if you're kind of following Anahat as your core thing, to these 12 meditations, to sacred geometry, to these underlying blueprints that help us to understand. So if you understand ascending, so you can look at any tradition and understand ascending. And therefore you might be in a certain tradition that's very ascending based, and then that's your primary spiritual path, and Anahat just helps you understand your path better. Or Anahat is your path, and then other traditions just help you to understand this better. I would say to me, Anahat is my path, but because it pathed me, it invaded me. It really wasn't a choice, but I study other things to help me to understand this tradition better. Anyway, the image to the right, the triangle, represents ascending. The boy is now, the seeker is now ascending. You're going towards God. You're going towards spirit. You're looking for the ox. You're trying to find that one truth, but you haven't experienced it yet. But you're definitely hearing a lot of teachings that allude to it. You want to ideally find the most direct path to spirit, not paths that say, well, you need a guru to get there. Oh, and by the way, because somebody asked, I don't consider myself a guru. The word literally, guru, means from darkness to light. Any good teacher leads you from darkness to light, but the guru model doesn't work well in the West. There have been a lot of gurus have fallen, made a lot of mistakes, and it just doesn't work well for the Western psyche. I'm speaking from a lot of experience in many different sources. So I would encourage anybody who's, who knows me and who might want to teach this. The Anahat system doesn't really, I don't personally, subscribe to the guru model. There's nothing in the revelations that come to me that say, oh, you're a guru. I am a teacher. Right now, you might consider yourself a student, but we teach what we are. And as you embody this stuff, you'll naturally teach. And these pictures that we're looking at really show the inevitable movement into some form of teaching. It might not look like what I do, but eventually you're going to get out into the world and help other people. And that's part of why I'm sharing these as well, to understand the stages you go through. Okay, so the ascending triangle image, the boy doesn't know spirit yet. The seeker doesn't know spirit yet. He doesn't know what all of his inner resources are, but he's at least on being guided to true paths. And I believe if any teacher is worth his or her salt, then that teacher will guide you to one specific path, not specific, but one path that you choose to follow. Again, dig one hole really deep. Even if you study about other shovels, find one good shovel and dig one hole really deep. If not, it's called having a spiritual salad. Little Taoism, little Buddhism, little Confucianism, little Shintoism, little Jainism, and now you just got a couple of, bunch of theories, but you really have no direct experience. So dig one deep path, and I would say for me, definitely meditation. Anahat meditation is that path. I do yoga, I do Tai Chi, I do Qigong, I love devotional chanting, but those are like adjuncts to my primary spiritual path. I do yoga so I can sit in meditation better, but meditation is my primary path. I do A Course in Miracles. I'm a Course in Miracles teacher, but still, Anahat meditation is my primary path. Yeah, but I'm not telling you guys what your primary path is. I'm just offering teachings. Next. The first glimpse of the ox. So here the seeker sees the ox's butt sticking out of the trees. What this represents is the first major spiritual experience. For me, there's two ways this can happen. For me personally, This is where it started. I really wasn't seeking. I was 19 years old. I was in college, so sure, I took one course on religion, one in philosophy, one in ethics, because I was obviously drawn to that kind of stuff, but I would never have called myself a spiritual seeker. Um, I didn't get into it the way most people did. I got into it because it got into me. January 13th, 1992, I had a huge spiritual awakening. What was duality became oneness, which was dark became light. All my chakras were wide open. I wouldn't know that term at the time, but that's what happened. And everything was samadhi. It was basically, this stage basically is samadhi. Even though samadhi has stages, it's safe to say when you have this experience, it's an experience of profound oneness and it'll change you forever. That's one way to get into it. It just happens to you without you really doing anything. In the end, the reason for that, in the spiritual literature is you are an evolved being. You've done a lot of spiritual work in past lives. That work isn't lost. When you incarnate in this lifetime, you pick up from where you left off. So it's kind of easy. And honestly, that's been my experience, if I can humbly say so. For most people, they really start with so they're suffering. They get into it not because they were just bombarded by bliss and then bliss takes over their life. They're suffering and they're in a lot of pain. And in the darkness, they're crying out for something more. Eventually, that begins the path for them. And it's a law of attraction. It's the power of intention. You intend to know something more, but you don't really know what you're looking for. And then you start finding teachers and teachings. Eventually, by dabbling in that stuff enough, you will have your first glimpse of the ox. You'll know if that's happened. If you've had really significant spiritual experiences, then you pretty well have had that. This also could mark the beginning of Kundalini awakening. Not necessarily the intensity of what it can be. It's not always super intense for everybody, but it could be. So this is stage 3. You get a taste of who you are as spirit, and the picture on the right represents an ascent towards spirit, and you have glimpsed that. You now know where to go. Even though the Anahat system is balancing all levels of your being, the ascending meditation 3, you're just going to spirit every time. That's why we're not really focused in the third eye or the crown as physical locations. We're putting our attention on spirit. There's nothing more direct, right? Meditate on God. Like, if you want to know God, meditate on God. If you want to know God, want to know God, and love God. That's religion. That's spirituality, when it comes to a theistic or devotional model. Remember, devotion is a faster path up the mountain. All roads lead to the top, the ascending triangle. If you're on a spiritual path, it's impossible not to bump into God. If you seek, you will find. But you can be more direct about it. And a good teacher will work to be more direct about it and won't try to turn you into a long-term disciple who takes money from you or other selfish means. Direct pointing is to say, close your eyes, focus on God. Right? And if you haven't had stage 3 occur yet, by doing that, you will have stage 3 occur. You will glimpse the ox. You will experience spirit, and you will know you experience spirit. So again, if you're wondering if you did, then you haven't. But when you have a profound samadhi experience, you'll know you had it, and your life has changed forever. Okay, we're going to go through these kind of quick because I don't want to go too long tonight, but I do want to cover all of them. Number 4 is catching the ox. In the image on the right, the geometry, the triangle is smaller and the circle is bigger because he has more awareness in his spiritual self. But now he's taught, this is the most important stage in my experience of being a spiritual teacher, that students who come to me, a lot of students who go through hypnotherapy school, a lot of my clients are at this stage, and it's why this meditation system is so valuable. It's a very, this is hard to explain simply, yet I understand this is how I say this in a few minutes. So when you get the glimpse of the ox, and remember, each stage will take like a year or two to move through. When you have enough time with the ox, you'll start to realize you are the ox, right? You're not a human being who has a spirit. You are a spiritual being who has a body, right? You're not a human being who has a spiritual experience. Eventually you realize you're a spiritual being having a human experience. But when the spiritual experiences start, which is very much this stage, it won't just be one. You'll start having a whole lot of spiritual experiences. As you do, you'll start to know yourself as spirit. And again, this will be a few years of really being with this idea. When you get to this next stage, there's a very clear shift that occurs where now the boy, the seeker, is spirit. The ox is ego, but the ego here is now seen as the ego, which is mental. But you want to consider the ox as your body, your emotions, and your mind. We'll call that lower self. And then the boy, the seeker, is actually higher self. He knows himself to be higher self. After 3 or 4 years of meditating, you're darn well better realize that you're a spiritual being and that you are a spirit. But you realize that you have a lot of blocks here. So the reason I was saying this is such an important stage for a lot of spiritual seekers is because it's the stage marked by discipline. That's what the whip and the rope were for. They're the two jewels of yogic philosophy, Vivek and Vairagya. We talked about both of those, so I won't belabor it. I won't really touch upon them now at all. Vivek is discerning truth from illusion, higher from lower, real from unreal, spirit from matter, or observer from observed, right? We talked about discernment. And then Vairagya is to let go of what doesn't serve you, which is basically everything except for spirit. However, like somebody asked about, when do you observe and when do you use spiritual discipline? Anybody you're teaching who's a meditation student needs spiritual discipline. And I still, it's different for sure at my stage of growth, but because I've been doing this, 22 years, something like that. I always screw up the math. But over 20 years, you're going to move through all these stages. I'm not claiming anything, but each stage takes about a year, and I've been at this since I was 19. So I can tell you, a lot about each of the stages, and I can say that still, I get on the cushion and I do spiritual discipline. Because remember, it only appears linear because I have to teach one at a time. But at the end, I'll show you all 10 again as pieces of the pie. So I still do beginner's mind. I'm still studying spiritual literature, mostly for fun. It's like I know what it's going to tell me, but I enjoy the studies. And then the first glimpse of the ox, I still have spiritual experiences. They're different than they were 20 years ago, but that doesn't really stop necessarily. And then I still get on the meditation cushion. I still do yoga. I still do Tai Chi. I still eat healthy. But you'll see the difference in stage 4 compared to the later stages where it's not discipline anymore. But right now it's discipline. It takes a rocket ship more fuel to get out of the Earth's atmosphere than to go around the moon and back. So this is a hard stage. Most people don't get through it. The discipline is too much. And this is why I know not everybody who starts the Anahat system will finish it. In fact, our numbers tonight for the live class are smaller than they were. Like every class, it'll get smaller. The idea is many are chosen, but few actually choose. Right? Few are willing to put in the work to get the rewards of deep spiritual practice. Remember, only a fool waits until their next lifetime to do what they can do now. So you start using the whip and the rope. You get on the meditation cushion. You have to discipline the body. The body is, running all over the place. It's not like the body has a will of its own, but because of your mind, which is not disciplined, and your emotions, which are not purified, the body is not necessarily being used for healthy, beneficial things. So you start purifying your diet. Vegetarian type diet is common here. Yoga practice, exercise, disciplining your biorhythms for sleep, using a schedule. There's always schedules at monasteries, ashrams. You pretty much always stick to a schedule so your ego doesn't run the show. You're attending spiritual classes still, but you're engaged in what's called sadhana, S-A-D-H-A-N-A, sadhana, spiritual discipline. And you are gung-ho on it. And it's hard, but you force yourself to do it. You get on the meditation cushion half hour every morning, half hour every evening minimum, and you do it. You do the spiritual retreats and you read the books, and you're kind of forcing yourself to do it even if you don't want to, because the you who doesn't want to is the ox, is the lower self. So it can be a little tricky to explain this quickly, because there's the shift that occurs where in the beginning, you have a spiritual self you're looking for. You hear teachings about your spiritual self, but then as you experience your spiritual self over a period of a year or so, you realize you are the spiritual self. So here in this picture, yeah, you see the cursor. This right now is the ox is higher self, the boy is lower self, but enough time spent with spirit, you realize you are higher self. And then the ox, which isn't really seen as spirit anymore, now it's seen as your ego, which is your mind, your emotions, and even your body in that sense. Okay, so the circle is getting bigger. You're still ascending up more and more into spirit. Taming the ox. After a few years, a year or two, depending on how intense you are, so probably a few years for most Americans, after a few years of spiritual discipline, the ox will be tamed. You still need your whip and rope. You still need your spiritual discipline. But if you look at the geometry, there's more awareness in spirit, less, you're not as identified with the body. The picture might indicate a 50-50 kind of thing, but we're not really measuring. We're just saying that somebody at this stage is an accomplished meditator, not necessarily advanced, but maybe intermediate, if we're going to put a label on it. I don't like the labels, but I want to try to explain it. So here's somebody who maybe has done yoga for quite a few years, and they've regulated their breathing. They know how to do pranayama. Their mind is more quiet. They're probably getting some very nice peace and relaxation and bliss. They understand, like yogic path, they would understand more about the chakras and purifying the chakras. But they're usually still needing therapy. I get a lot of these people who are my clients. They're doing good, but they still have a lot of wounds. Excuse me. When I lived in India, I experienced this a lot. I was doing a lot of hypnotherapy, healing work on, I guess you call them clients, in the afternoons in India, and they would come to my apartment. I would see like usually one a day. And they were pretty advanced spiritual aspirants, but they had still had a lot of blocks in their heart. Remember, the ox still exists because there's a lower self who's still disturbed. So you could meditate for 10, 20, 30 years and still have a lot of disturbed blockages in your heart, your childhood memories, your past life memories. There's just a lot of stuff in the subconscious. There shouldn't be a subconscious with a whole lot of stuff. That doesn't really exist in the deeper stages. But here, this would clearly be a conscious, spiritually aware being who still has a subconscious that needs a lot of work. This would very much be an unhealed healer, but somebody who's on the healing path, whether that's teaching, healing, whatever you do, but you're probably realizing you want to give back. A lot of people come to a hypnotherapy school, instituteofhypnotherapy.com to plug that. A lot of people go through that school, have done a lot of personal growth work, spiritual growth, but they still have a lot of healing to do. That's essentially what this is. Riding the ox home. After, I'm going to say, about 5 to 6 years of intense, hardcore spiritual practice, you are more accomplished now. Maybe you could say this is an advanced meditator. There's still a lower self of the ox. There's obviously still body, mind, emotions, and there always will be while you're doing the human thing. Yet here, when he's playing his flute, he doesn't need a whip and a rope anymore. He is established in the bliss of consciousness. There's still ego, and that's, perfectly fine, but it's a much more purified ego. The big trap here is the spiritual ego. Any good teacher won't let you get caught in spiritual ego, but the traps are there. And the trap here is that you might have, let's say you're a Buddhist. You might get so into Buddhism, you become a Buddhist. And, like Christians are sometimes good examples of that. You're so Christian that everybody else is wrong, and your way is the only way. And, you dress like whatever. You see this in the Hare Krishna movement because they have their own clothes. I would say costumes, but their own clothing. I love the Hare Krishna movement, so I'm not talking down about it at all. But you'll see, they eat a vegetarian diet. They only eat very pure food. They have to chant the name of God over their food when they're eating it. They wear their hair a certain way, same, certain clothing. That can become a huge identity, and it's okay because it's a useful identity. Yet it's not who you really are. You're not Christian, Buddhist, Muslim. Any of the things that the ego identifies with can be traps. But anyway, the spiritual path that got you so far, that you have to be cautious of getting too identified with, has led you to inner feelings of peace and bliss and love and joy and oneness. You're so highly established in higher chakras in this stage. You might not be very functional physically, This is where ascending starts becoming quite addictive and intoxicating, and you don't want to come out of meditation. So somewhere like this stage of samadhi, which I'll give you a whole class, or at least a lot of a class on stages of samadhi in the future, this would be a lot of a non-samadhi, the bliss of oneness. And you're established in this stage when you can access that whenever you want to. It's not like, oh, I had a little bit of bliss last week for 10 minutes, right? And then, it's been another 3 months, and maybe I got a little bliss again. But that's good. You find the bliss, and you learn to meditate on it. So riding the ox home, the spiritual aspirant is rooted in the ascended state, and it's pretty easy to go there. And then the lower self is pretty well disciplined now. It wants to eat healthy, it wants to sleep well, it wants to exercise, it likes doing yoga to take care of the body if you do yogic practice. It enjoys getting in the meditation cushion. You don't have to force the ox to get on the cushion. The ox every night is like, oh, hey, let's go meditate. And the higher self's like, yeah, let's go meditate. There's really no hindrance to continuing. And again, this is a short class on this, so I could talk for an hour about this stage and the psychology of it, because there really are very deep psychological shifts that are occurring here. So again, I've taught this a lot. Each slide is worth an hour discussion easily. Stage 7, ox forgotten, self alone. Here the triangle is gone. Ascension is incomplete, but it's highly complete. The stage of samadhi this would associate with is called asmita samadhi. You found yourself as pure consciousness. You meditate on yourself as pure consciousness. And so the image is the boy on the top of a mountain in a hut, staring at the moon there, which is the empty circle, which is spirit. And in asmita samadhi, consciousness focuses on spirit, and that's about it. It's usually a time of significant reclusiveness. You love being away from the world. You seldom come back down from the top of the mountain. And again, it's not that these stages are linear. So I literally live on the top of the mountain. Yesterday was so gorgeous exploring more of the mountains here. It's like, the mountains are holy. Saints, you understand that. I was at one of the peaks near me is 9,000 feet. This shirt actually represents Estes Park, Longs Peak, which is the Colorado Rockies, 14,000. So the 14ers are really cool. But you can meditate up there. So like 5,000 is a great place. That's where I live at 5,000 feet. But yesterday I was up hiking at 8,000 feet. The air starts getting thinner. But the spiritual energy is just a lot higher up in the mountains. And when you're alone as a recluse in the mountains, meditating God for hours a day, it's beautiful. It doesn't mean I'm not also functioning in all the other levels of this, which we'll look at the end. But again, I wouldn't teach this if I couldn't speak from experience. And this, it's not just that your life looks like a hermit, because it doesn't have to, but your inside is very much a hermit. All you want to do is meditate on God. You don't care about anything else. Just the bliss of the Shakti, the love, the Kundalini, the light is so intoxicating that why would you want to, who is it? I think Kabir Rumi said, why would you want to open your other eyes at all? Your inner eye is open, so you stop looking at the external world. You really don't care about the external world. Here you've clearly realized what's valuable in this stage. Spirit is valuable. Everything else below, down there, the realm of the Muggles is not valuable. There's nothing of value. You might say, but my relationships are valuable. Well, yeah, because we're all spiritual beings. So that'll be tomorrow night's class in A Course in Miracles, special relationships and holy relationships. Holy relationships are very valuable. Yet you can be, and this is in the Tao Te Ching, the Taoist Bible, you can be in complete isolation and liberate all beings. You do not actually have to come down from the top of the mountain. In the Tao Te Ching, in Course in Miracles, it says, I need do nothing. You liberate all beings by just sitting in meditation. And it's like, why in Buddhism? The whole essence of Zen or Mahayana Buddhism is the liberation of all beings, which we'll see in these 10 stages. And you do that by meditating, not just by running around and opening hospitals and whatnot, or helping the homeless, which you do if you're inspired to. But here, there's usually a lot of reclusiveness. In a Zen monastery and in ashrams, and not everybody will know about it. You have to be around enough to know. There will be very advanced practitioners who no longer practice with the community. They go into isolation and seclusion. At the monastery I lived at, the Zen monastery, there were definitely monks who were so far along. All they needed to do is sit in meditation by themselves, and people just bring them food. And the community supports them, but they live alone as recluses. Again, it doesn't mean your life will ever become that, but your internal reality when you meditate at night or whatever will very much be. You need to go there. And so long periods of time of retreat for somebody at this stage are extremely valuable and actually like almost unavoidable, even though I don't want you to think you're going to renounce, your life and your family. You're probably going to really want at this stage. But again, we're talking minimum of 7 years to get to this place. And then I would say, 10 plus years. It depends on how much you practice. And anyway, that's a glimpse of this. But that boy in that big, he's not even a seeker anymore. He's accomplished. He knows who he is. And there's only a subtle little bit of ego left. And the ego is really, in theistic terms, devotional terms, lover and beloved. I am the soul and I love you, God. And that's really all that's happening. It's the soul in communion with God. That's this stage, just soul and God, soul and God, soul. That's it. There's nothing else left in the psyche when you're meditating in this way. It's just you and God. And that's a very subtle ego. The idea that so it says, ox forgotten, no more lower self bothering anymore. Self alone means you are the individual soul and God is the universal soul. So the boy is just focused on the moon, and that's all that's happening. But everybody who would ever encounter such a being will be blessed. You won't even know why, but if this person is in your life is going to be made better off. But this person might not even know why. They're just focused on the light. And the nice little story I won't tell because of time is anybody who passes by his shadow will be blessed, but he's not even doing it. He's just focused on the light. Next, ox forgotten and self alone, both ox and self forgotten. This is stage 8, the empty circle. Sometimes you see it drawn, which kind of happened here by default in the PowerPoint. It's not a complete circle. It's sometimes empty, open in one little aspect of it, implying the work is never done. You hear that idea in the Masonic tradition, the work is never done. That's why the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill, those type of pyramids found in Masonic imagery, implies the work is never done. Anyway, the empty circle represents what's called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Vikalp is the word imagination, and Nirvikalp without imagination. Nirvana, Nirvikalp. Nirvana is the word for this stage. Nir, it means without, and nirvana means without breath. Without breath is Nirvikalpa Samadhi. It is the state of non-dual consciousness. It's a high samadhi in the ascending thing. There's really no more ascending. There's only you and spirit. So you ascended, but now there's only spirit. The meditative state of this, well, there's no words. So the Tao Te Ching begins, those who speak do not know, and those who know do not speak. But anybody can meditate on this. You find spirit, just go to your higher chakras, and you focus there. But you got a lot of other stuff going on, body, emotions, mind, breathing, counting, mantra, devotion, ego, spiritual ego. That's all happening in spiritual aspirants. In this stage, none of that's happening. So again, you can't describe it. Anybody who does doesn't know it, yet pure peace, the peace that surpasses all understanding would be a reasonable term here. It's alive though. It's not Nagarjuna, the Buddhist mystic. He said, when I experienced non-being, it wasn't like non-being, it was wondrous being. It's God realizing herself as who she is, but here the drop merges into the ocean. So body and mind drop away in this state. You're not in this meditative state. You're not aware of time and space. This image implies no time, no space, no imagination. And that's a deep concept. Again, I could take an hour on this one slide to explain, like, what is nirvana? What is nirvikalpa? It's a practice at first. Eventually, like all the other stages, it becomes a sustained state of being. No blockages. You can't be, you can attain this and still have some blocks, but the more time you spend here, all your blocks will eventually dissolve away. There's no sanskars here. There's no karma here. What your life looks like, well, whatever. I remember a teacher of mine, he said, Buddha could be serving you hamburgers. You would have no idea. You'll know there's something different about that person, but you really couldn't put your finger on it. A lot of people will be really drawn to and attracted to that person, but there's no ego. There's no ego trip. They could wear whatever kind of clothing. They could eat whatever kind of food, but they've been through the spiritual path, so they're not stupid, right? They know how to eat, but they eat to sustain the state. Gabriel Cousens, who I mentioned, he said, it's not that you should eat, you don't live to eat. And then it's not that you live, it's not eat to live or live to eat. It's neither of those. It's eat to know God. You eat foods that bring you to spirit, that are conducive to your spiritual practice. So somebody at this stage knows how to do that. They're not doing it so they can know God. They could eat anything. But quinoa, kale, and beans, which is my primary diet, is far healthier than pizza or whatever, and certainly better than hamburgers. So you're going to live a very healthy lifestyle here, but the idea here is you are the light. However, it also does still imply nirvana, which implies freedom from suffering. This state is called jivana mukta, a completely liberated being. And remember, this is stage 8, and I said there used to only be 8 stages. Yet to understand how religion has evolved, we all look at stage 9. You can't really talk about what's happening in stage 8. Stage 9, you'll notice there's no more circle per se in the imagery on the left. There's no more boy, there's no more seeker, no more whip and rope. But there is trees and birds and leaves and rivers. And the idea is in like, hesitating on who I reference for this. I'll just say the idea. In the mountains and rivers order ideal, you have reached the top. So in the picture on the right, we've got the empty circle now. She is as a fully realized being. But after a year or two being with Nirvikalpa Samadhi for a long period of time, like hours and hours a day for years, then something you already know intellectually occurs at a very profound level. You actually descend again, which is why the Anahat system is so beautiful to me, because we start with descending. And in the deepest, one of the deepest stages of spiritual growth, you descend again. There's a beautiful book I love to quote at this stage by an author named René Dumas. He passed away while writing the book, so it's not complete. And his wife compiled a bunch of his notes in the appendix for, to try to let the reader get some sense of what his thought process was. The book is called Mount Analog, and an analog meaning analogous to the spiritual path. So everybody in the book is climbing the mountain, but then it says in the notes that his wife collected, when you reach the top, you must come down again. And why must this be so? Because what is below does not know what is above. One climbs, one sees, one descends, and one sees no longer. But one has seen. There's an art in conducting oneself in the lower regions by what one has seen higher up. When one can no longer see, one could at least still know. That's not necessarily exact, because you always know and you always see when you make it to these stages. Yet, I like the quote, the idea that when you reach the top, you must come down again. That's what the descent is, but it's the descent of an enlightened being. So if you can imagine someone who did all that intense reclusive retreat, however, ashram, monastery, but, it's intense spiritual practice. It's not just like, keeping your day job, being with your family, and meditating for a half hour. Like meditating a half-hour day doesn't bring you to this stuff. When you're at these stages, you probably have been doing your 8 to 10 hours of spiritual practice a day. So when you come back down, what you notice, and in the Nirvikalpa state, eventually this idea of higher and lower completely have to drop away, because there's no imagination. And only imagination would make the words higher or lower. In, out, ascending, descending. So what's here is oneness with all that is. The samadhi experience is what's called asampragyat samadhi, meaning no subject, no object. You are the trees, you are the birds. And remember, this isn't linear, so you know that, right? You have some intuition that when you hug a tree, the same consciousness that you are is the same consciousness that the tree is. And when you see a suffering child, you will turn on the news now, then you watch, the atrocities happening on the planet. You're in this stage, it's all you, right? That all the suffering is yourself suffering. So what really you start to notice here is suffering. And it's just not that you didn't know it was there before, but the difference is you're one with it. Right? So the best story, maybe one of the best, but the one that pops to my mind for sure right now, is the great saint Ramakrishna I mentioned to you. There are times in his life where this one story, he was out with a lot of his disciples outside the ashram, and they were just like in the back of a car or something. It's kind of like a pickup truck is kind of how I visualize it, the way the story was told. And Ramakrishna is in agony. He's hurting so bad. His disciples say, Master, what's the matter? He can't even speak. But he points to his back. He said, lift up my shirt. But he can't even talk. It's so painful. He lifts up his shirt. They lift up his shirt, and there's bruises, like beating on his back. Then he points across the street, down the street. And there were some police officers beating, as a criminal or somebody, anyway, somebody was being beaten by the police. And the pain and the wounds of the man being beaten ended up in Ramakrishna's body. That's probably one of the best stories of, this stage, is somebody who's completely one with everything, who knows it, but who's living it. And the compassion becomes unbearable. Ram Dass, Richard Alpert, who a lot of you guys probably know, I do some really beautiful work on the idea of compassion in action. Andrew Harvey, great spiritual teacher, does a lot of great work, understanding of this stage. But, this is a very advanced stage, so it's pretty rare. You got to have somebody who's gone through 10, 20, plus years of deep spiritual practice to really grasp what happens. So in Buddhism, it used to just be, go to stage 8, go to nirvana, go home. Just, you're enlightened, you go to heaven, that's it. But this is where the bodhisattva vow comes in, where you realize your oneness with all beings, and it's not even a vow by choice. It's just there's nothing else you can do once you're, imagine like you are so connected to your child, obviously, right? If you have children, you would do anything for your kids. And if you're, I don't want to give imagery of this, but if your kid was hurting, you would do anything to help them. You would die for them. You would take on their pain. The saint who's made it to this stage knows that all beings are their very own self, just like your child is an extension of yourself. The physical world, all sentient beings are an extension of yourself. There's no individual self here. Mother Teresa was asked, she said, why, how can you do this? Like, look at all the pain. You could just spend all day crying. She said, there's a reporter who asked her that. She said, dear sir, if you think I have time to cry, you are out of your mind. And she just went right back to being of service. When they said, how can you touch the lepers? How can you touch the lepers' feet? She said, I don't see lepers, I see Christ. Right? So great saints and sages function on this level, and they function in the world, which is, so after enough meditation in stage 9, stage 10, entering the marketplace with helping hands. Now you're the big fat jolly Buddha. You probably gained some weight during the time, and now you're teaching the students. So you're a teacher one way or another. It might not look like what I do, but in A Course in Miracles, it says the more evolved you are in the path, the more advanced you are in the path, the more you'll end up teaching. And that is in A Course in Miracles for sure. It's been my experience. But again, it doesn't mean you're using your words. You teach all the time. So even if you're still working at McDonald's or you're working at a hospital, nobody's going to necessarily know that you're Buddha. But everything you do and everyone you touch will be blessed. In this caption, in the, I believe, the Chinese calligraphy there, says, without recourse to mystic powers, withered trees he quickly brings to bloom. Tomorrow night's class in the Conscious Community, Course in Miracles, special relationships versus special relationships and holy relationships. During the path, you're very much involved in special relationships, right? Like my teacher, my child, my guru, my spouse. All that my stuff doesn't exist for this Buddha here. So the relationship for this person is holy with everyone. And, like a lot of people are drawn to this person, but this person doesn't really care about individual relationships anymore. It's very hard for the people who want to be in an individual relationship with this person because she is so fulfilled from within. They don't care about special relationships anymore. Every relationship is a holy relationship. Every relationship is a chance to bring someone back to God, but they're not even trying. They're just being themselves. But again, if this person is in your life, you will absolutely be blessed. But it's so important to not project who you think this being is onto, I'll just say him again, because the ego can't understand this. When you study the great saints, the really great ones, they are so far beyond human comprehension. You study Ramakrishna, which obviously I did intensely. It was like part of my college major. You can't grasp who he is through the lens of the world. Meher Baba, I mentioned to you guys, I think Meher. You can't grasp who Meher Baba is, through a human lens. So if you study these great beings, it's a really good idea because, like in neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, we say if someone else can do it, so can you. But you have to learn what they're doing internally. This guy, the Buddha here, is doing nothing internally. There's no one home. And yet, there's pure freedom. There's the tiniest bit of ego. Everybody who's still on the planet still has the tiniest bit of ego. But the ego is, Ramakrishna talked about this. He said it's the ego of the servant. Like everybody gets student emails every day, even on the weekend. And I just write back, my heartfelt sense is, I'm honored to be of service. Thank you. I'm so honored to be sharing this stuff with you. I'm so glad to see it's helping you. But there's nothing else really going on except to be of service at this stage. All right, so in conclusion here in this teaching, we see all 10 stages again. Again, the numbers didn't end up on this, the image because of the copy and pasting. But here again, we're starting with the cursor looking 1 all the way around to 10. Don't consider it linear, consider it blossoming out. So have a beginner's mind, be of service to others, do spiritual discipline, find the bliss of God and meditate on it. You blossom like a flower, you're blossoming out in all 10 simultaneously. So we said, oh, what stage is Matthew at? I can honestly and hopefully humbly say I've experienced in all 10 stages, but maybe you do too. So like how much have you blossomed? Maybe I'm here, maybe you're, like a teacher is just maybe 1 or 2 steps further along than the student. You're not as far as you think if you're still listening to this stuff. So you're blossoming out in all 10 stages all the time. So be of service, keep a beginner's mind, do spiritual discipline, meditate on the bliss of God, keep meditating in the samadhi stages. And it makes sense to understand this linear, but mostly I offer it for a lot of reasons. I'm sure you can value what I'm saying, but I'm going to say I'm offering this concluding words in this teaching because if you're a teacher of meditation, you need to be able to evaluate where the student is at to help them to move to the next stage. So there's good books on this. You can just Google it and find the one you're inspired to read because it's largely in Buddhism, but you'll find other authors teaching this in different ways, including me. So if you read 3 of my 5 books at minimum, you will come across these teachings. All right. Screen share has stopped. Questions or sharing, and then we'll run later like we usually do. But I'm going to get in the meditation cushion very soon. So any questions or sharing before we shift over to meditation? Great, thank you. Wonderful lecture, ready for the cushion. Nice, awesome. Just give it a moment. Yeah, I'm ready for the cushion too. I never expect to teach as much as I do, but this is maybe the one chance to get all this stuff out there. So once a week, we crank out 2 to 3 hours, usually closer to 3, and then this will be on YouTube for eternity. All right, okay, good. I don't see anything from you guys. Let me shift the camera. All right, hopefully that's gonna work. I'll bring the mic with me. Okay. Yeah. That'll work. All right. A little too warm for the blankets, meditation shawl. All right, so when we come into sits, body posture, it's asana. In the 8 limbs of yogic practice, Ashtanga Yoga, we don't have to worry about 1 and 2 right now. Move the mic and I feel like I have to yell. So 1 and 2, yam and niyam, we don't have to worry about now. Step 3, asana, the body posture. The primary pose is some form of lotus. Remember, you could do seiza or sit upright on a straight back chair. It's a really good idea to find a position where your spine is straight and not leaning back. Ideally, even if you're on a straight back chair, don't lean back. And it's really nice to have this spine that can move. You can move side to side if you want, a little circles, help to find center. And then feel like you're being lifted up, like your skeleton is hanging in an anatomy classroom and everything else relaxes down. Drop your chest, your breastbone, your sternum, relax your belly. Low back slightly concave, so we push a little bit of tension forward to the hara. Knees are down, pyramid shape, right? Not too baggy of a shirt, so you get some sense of things. And then hands go to Maha Mudra. In Zen, I'm not sure I really talked about this. I often talk about it as if you have 2 eggs under your armpits, so and you're not going to crunch them. But this, especially when on camera, I can realize how much it's hard to hold that exact posture. And in Zen, maybe it's important, in Zazen, but in Anahat, not as important. All right, so remember, second set of knuckles aligned. Tips of the fingers are touching, forming a nice oval. Remember, the fingers act as a gauge. If you lose mindfulness, they'll probably open, or if you're too tense, they're pushing too tight. So like my beautiful first Zen teacher said, it's like holding a piece of rice paper between the fingers. Shoulders are soft and ideally level. We're going to keep the eyes open at first. Tip of the tongue and the roof of the mouth. Chin slightly in, eyes down at about a 45-degree angle. Just checking again the screen, but that's as close to precise alignment as I'm going to focus on now. So now we're just focusing below the navel at the hara. We start descending right away. Actually, why don't we bow in if you'd like. Hands immediately go to the hara, and we immediately inhale and engage our practice. If you're breathing and counting, then count 1, 2, right? Inhale, exhale. Or if you're more advanced with breathing and counting, then just count every other, count all the inhalations. Or you can use a mantra, but just don't be indecisive. Just know your practice and stick to it. But I'll do breathing and counting for guiding you. 1, 2. Inhale 3. Exhale 4. Inhale 5. So keep going. You don't need me to do just that. So our eyes are open. And we're just sitting here. It's nothing special. Enlightenment is nothing special. Nobody would necessarily know that you're awake. But you're not the same as everybody else. But you're just human. But most people aren't just human. So descending is just to sit here as a human. You know you're not a human. And you know a lot of the mysteries underlying the human. But you're just sitting here. That's called Shikantaza in Zen, just sitting. Or the state is just this. In beginner's mind, there's just this. And just this is actually the whole universe. So just sit here breathing and counting. Meditation 1, descending, focus below the navel. We're coming into the body in a sense, fully grounded, fully connected to the human. intimate with the breath. The mind doesn't wander when we're in fruition for descending. It doesn't look blissful or ecstatic. It doesn't sound that way, but the energy is there. It's just different when we descend. With the eyes open, let's inhale to the heart. Exhale the heart, open to love, self-love, love for all beings, and eventually, because we'll ascend, it'll be love of spirits. So inhale to the heart, exhale, keep the energy there. Eventually, you're not inhaling to the heart from the hara, you're just inhaling and exhaling at the heart. Here we want to eventually find the heart open and clear, no emotional blocks. Your heart is the root of your mind. Whatever your heart feels, your mind will talk about. When your heart is truly peaceful and content, your mind won't have anything to say at all. You'll just be breathing and counting easily, or whatever your practice is. And at the heart, only love. Only love. Only love. You can ascend to the third eye region with eyes open, but because it's nighttime practice, late afternoon here, nighttime on the East Coast, we're gonna relax the hands. You can forget about your hands. They could rest palms down. If you think ascending is palms up, that's fine, but it doesn't really matter because you'll forget about your hands. You can touch thumb and index finger if you want, with palms up or down. Intuitively, naturally, my body on its own is adjusting the spine, aligning vertebrae. The vertebrae kind of all feel like little spheres. The whole spine is just like one stack of spheres. And it's being lifted from above, relaxing down. Eyes are closed, chin goes up a little, not too far back, but just maybe parallel to the ground. Focus on the third eye region. Focus on ascending. Inhale, inhalations go up from the heart, and even from the hara, we're pulling all energy up to the head. Exhale at the head. Inhale, heart to head. Exhale at the head. Your attention, regardless of your breathing or your counting, or whatever your internal mental practice is, your awareness, your attention is on spirit. Spirit here is consciousness. Your consciousness. Pure peace. So quiet and peaceful. Focus on that peaceful consciousness and you'll feel the bliss of it. Sanyam power is held on spirit. All the focus of descending goes up here. All the love of the heart goes up here. So you might open to devotional love, lover and beloved. the awareness of I am, that I am. You're focusing on that I am. If you're using a mantra like the Heart Sutra mantra, the Prajnaparamita mantra, gone, gone, gone beyond the beyond, hail the goer. So just go, moving in and up beyond time and space. And in the Oxfording pictures, the body is the ascending pyramid structure. Then there's your heart, then there's your mind. You're going above all of that. Your attention is on the pure circle, the pure sphere of pure awareness. We're obviously spending more time here because spirit is the goal. This is direct pointing. Your body is the temple, you bring it to stillness, and you focus on the Holy of Holies in the temple, the sanctum, sanctorum, the essence. I am. Simply focus here, engage your practice. Anand Samadhi is to meditate on the bliss of the self. And one step deeper, Asmita Samadhi, is to meditate on the I am presence, using the bliss to guide you there, using the counting or the mantra to guide you there. For those who are familiar more with pranayama, we're not going to do the external overt pranayama, but one of the most advanced is called Kumbhak pranayama, where you're holding the breath. So as you move through the stages of Ashtanga Yoga, body posture is complete, asana. Step 4, pranayama. When you inhale, you could hold the breath on the top of the inhalation. Then exhale quietly in the third eye region. Inhale, perhaps hold. You don't always have to do this, just teaching. That's pranayama. Pratyahara, we withdraw the attention away from the external world to the inner world, the spirit. Withdraw from the senses. And then practice sanyam, which is dharana dhyan samadhi. Concentrating, focusing, meditating on, merging into the self. Of course, there's a tendency to want to stay there more, and in your own meditations, you're always welcome to. For now, let's practice meditation 4. Let the chin go down a little, eyes go down. Let the hands be wherever they are. For now, we'll keep the eyes closed. It's more enjoyable, but you can do this with eyes open. Descend. Imagine all the conscious energy, all that bliss and love, waterfall cascades down into your body, down to the sexual energy, and breathe into the first and second chakra area. Inhalations at the sexual energy, exhalations at the sexual energy. If you understand Mula Bandha, root locking, you can pull Mula Bandha now. You don't have to do any other lock, but root locking, simply stated, just kind of gently tense in between the vagina or the penis and the anus, the perineum. You're just tensing there a little, like a gentle Kegel exercise. We're sealing the energy from going down. When we're breathing into the sexual energy, you don't have to pull the root lock. Meditation 4 is just to breathe the spiritual energy all the way down, descending it all the way into the body. Remembering stage 9 of the Oxfording pictures, descending is a very advanced practice. Because all spirit that you felt was up there needs to be found here as well. If you only can find spirit in your higher chakras, you're not done. So now you're bringing spirit down to the lower chakras, blending it with the sexual energy. Sexual energy is meant to only be pleasure. Now we'll pull it up the spine. You can use the sacral and cranial pumps if you understand them, if you want to use them, but it's not official Anahat meditation. Where you inhale, pull the energy from the sexual energy up the spine, up the back. That's the dew meridian, the governing vessel. And exhale, circulate it up in the region of the head. Inhale, pulling it up. Exhale, circulated, like expanded in the head. So meditation 5 is circulation, inhaling up the back central channel. Exhale into higher consciousness again. So we just ascended again. But for a little while, you're pulling the sexual energy up to spirit through the heart of love. So all pleasure, all love goes to source. You're climbing the mountain again. You're bringing your sexual energy with you. It's not going out into the world right now. It's going up to God. Again, devotion, concentration on source. Anand samadhi bliss. Asmita samadhi, meditation on the amness, the I am present. Now inhale up to the third eye region, up to spirit. Exhale, descend awareness, conscious breath energy down to the shoulders, soften your shoulders. Inhale, pull all the spiritual energy down to the hara, even to the sexual energy. Exhale, let it float up to the kidneys and internal organs there. Inhale, up, back to spirit. Exhale, spirit down to the lungs, shoulders. Inhale, hara and or sexual energy. Exhale, kidneys, third chakra level. Inhale up through the heart, throat, third eye, crown, spirit. Exhale down to the shoulders. Keep your attention at your heart now as the center of this movement. So you're at the center in your heart. You inhale to your hara. Exhale, region of the kidney. Inhale, crown. Exhale, shoulders. Focused at the heart. Inhale, hara. Sexual energy for second chakra. Exhale, kidneys, internal organs, third chakra. Inhale up through the heart, through the throat, fifth, sixth, third eye, seventh crown. Exhale down to the shoulders. Inhale through the heart, solar plexus, all the way down, descending. Exhale to the kidneys, that's the base of the ascending triangle. Inhale up the ascending triangle to the crown. The point of the ascending triangle at the top. Exhale down to the shoulders. The top of the descending triangle. Inhale. Base of the descending triangle. Exhale. Base of the ascending triangle at the kidneys. Inhale up the ascending triangle. Spirit. Exhale, shoulders, lungs, open heart. Inhale, hara, sexual organs. Exhale, kidneys, adrenals, internal organs at that level. Inhale, pull it up the body, up the ascending triangle. Focus on the golden triangles, not outside the confines of the body. Exhale from spirit down to shoulders. Inhale, hara. Exhale, kidneys. Not only the words I use, just simple words to guide you. Inhale, crown, spirit. Exhale, shoulders, throat open. Awareness is held at the heart. Inhale to the hara. Sexual energy, exhale. Third chakra level, kidneys. Inhale up the ascending triangle, golden triangle. To spirit, exhale to shoulders. Inhale down that golden triangle to the base. And let's go in silence for a moment. There might be the tendency to want to predominantly ascend, but let me encourage you just for now, keep the predominant energy at the heart. Hara and third eye are above, below, and above, respectively. So you're practicing fully grounded, fully open to spirit, with a fully open heart. When the meditation period practice time is complete, I encourage you to be sure you come back to the heart and breathe into your hearts. When you're ready to end the practice, your hands can do a gasho, Sanskrit pranam. And you can have your eyes closed when you end the practice, or if you really want to kind of descend a bit more to be more present, your eyes could open. But either way, I'm going to bow out of the meditation. The energy, at least in my system, completed itself. Any more of that would just make it feel better and better, but it feels like fruition, so just following the energy. Then I'll just slowly open my eyes, mindfully right here. And then you continue with your day, off the cushion, but still meditating. So this is in Zen, this would be Zazen, sitting practice. But then there's walking practice, eating practice, sleeping practice. You're always meditating. Just a question of what practice you're engaged in any one moment. Okay, so remember, number one, descend. How valuable that is. Number two, heart-centered, how valuable that is. If something's not open and it feels blocked, spend more time there. Once you feel really complete, open, focus, love. Then three, ascend. Spirit, four, descend. sexual energy, which you can totally skip at times if you want to. And then 5, circulate the sexual energy. And then 6, we move it through the patterns of the star, all centered around the heart chakra. When we end, we're back at the heart. And that's very complete. The stuff that's coming your way has a lot to do with the meridians of the arms, which are very valuable, meridians of the legs, the microcosmic orbit up the back, down the front, the wings movement, an integration that occurs at 11, and then number 12 has a lot to do with the skeletal structure, and that completes level 1. So that doesn't take, I think we do that in like 3 or 4 weeks at most to finish all level 1. Level 2 will only take, I think that's 2 weeks to complete, and then level 3. So we're moving along. Kind of goes quicker in a sense from this point, but we'll see. All right, let me go back to the computer. All right, so please share, ask questions. We're right at the 3-hour mark, so that's plenty good for today. But the camera's not focusing well today. Questions or sharing before I wrap it up? Thank you. You're very welcome. Come on, camera. No, it's not working today. Great, lovely practice. Thank you. It's beautiful. It feels good, but I'm sorry the camera's not focusing. But yeah, just let me shut it on and off, even though we're probably done. Just in case we're not, if you have questions, hopefully we just, there we go. Great, yeah, just remember it might feel good, but that's not really why we do it. That's just a nice benefit. You know you're on the right track if it feels good. But remember, all chakras open, fully with your body, fully with your heart, fully with spirit. It's just so complete. I've never experienced anything like it. So I want you to keep doing it to experience the completeness of what it does for you. And that's really, to me, the essence of it all. All right, great. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to stop recording, and if there's any other questions or sharing, I'll be right here for you. We'll be here next week for sure. Most likely introduce you to meditation 7. It's called the Star Reversed. It's really lovely as well. And we'll go from there. So have a good night.